Very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice. Thank you all for joining me on a Monday night. Not a great weekend, I guess, given the result against Man United at the weekend. Did we go there expecting anything, to be quite honest with you? Let's start with that, shall we? Because I think I did a review straight after the game on Sunday as I came out of the stadium. And I suggested that I thought we played better. And I got an awful lot of reaction to the short video that I did, with people asking what game was I watching, and I must be easily satisfied if I thought that we played better, etc. But I'm going to stick to that because I think when we compare the kind of performances that we've been experiencing over the last few weeks against the likes of Bristol City in the cup, against Sheffield United, etc. You know, one thing that we've been all complaining about is how turgid the football's been and how awful it's been. You know, and I guess the consolation is out of those games, well, apart from being knocked out of the cup, but in the league, I guess the consolation was that we didn't lose. And yet the irony is that we went to Man United kind of not expecting much, and we put in a half-decent performance, and yet we walked away with a 3-0 defeat. How ironic is football? But it is that way, isn't it? So I'm not suggesting that I thought we were brilliant and we were unlucky, but I am suggesting that it was you know, when you think about the performance all round, you know, you look at the stats and everything that we had, and in general, the performance was all right, except that we keep forgetting how to defend, and we don't have our shooting boots on. And the massive irony of really not being able to identify either a striker. I didn't expect us to get a striker in the January window, but not to at least get a left-sided attacking midfielder was kind of outrageous, really, I guess. So I walked away, excuse me, I've got cat feather fluff all over the place. I walked away from that game scratching my head and saying, we played well. We've got an awful lot more to do in defence and an awful lot more to do in attack. But you know, we had our chances. We had a numerous amount of chances, and we just didn't put them away. And I just wonder if we had put at least one chance away, how that might have changed the game. But anyway, it is what it is. I'm going to go onto it a bit later on, but I just want to get rid of my roundup news, because I always end up sort of doing it about an hour into the show. So I'm just going to do very briefly, and then I will come to your comments and chat in a moment. But let's get all the stuff out the way first. So a bit of a roundup. We heard earlier today that our fixtures for March have been rearranged as usual. We were kind of expecting that. Start off with the game against Burnley has been moved to Sunday, the 10th of March at 2 p.m. Not being televised. They just thought that's a change because of us being in Europe, and I guess we kind of expecting that. And then the game, obviously, again because of Europe. The game against Aston Villa, we're hosting Aston Villa now on the 17th of March at 2 p.m. There's an asterisk there because if Aston Villa progress in the cup, that might change yet again. So look out for that. And then, of course, the game that will be televised is our away game to Newcastle on the 30th of March. It's been moved to a really good time, hasn't it, for those travelling fans? 12:30 in the afternoon. I mean, for fuck's sake. But there you go. It is what it is. TV has rights as to what times they want and what days they want. And so we're going to have to get up there extra early on that Saturday and travel up there to get there for a 12:30. I think someone said that we're going to have to catch something like a 7:30 train in the morning. Brilliant. What else have we got? Let's do some women's news. Get that out of the way because, hey, they've won 2 games in a row now. They beat Arsenal at the weekend, beating them 2-1. Arsenal went 1-0 ahead just before half-time, we got ourselves back in the game with Vivian Asai taking a penalty on the 50th minute, and then Hawa Sissoko on the hour mark making it 2-1. After last week's win over bottom place Bristol City in the league, that has enabled the women's team to leapfrog both Brighton and Everton into 9th place. But only goal difference separates those us and those two teams. So we've got an awful lot to go before the end of the season. Under 21s back in action last week, where they played in the I've forgotten the name of it, but there you go. I'll get to it because I've got it written down here somewhere. Anyway, we're showing that we can do well without Callum Marshall, Gideon Kodewa, etc. And we played Dinamo Zagreb in the Premier League International Cup last Wednesday. It was a 3-0 win over the Croatian team. It meant that we booked our place to the knockout stages of this tournament. David Mbama was picked for the game, I guess, to keep the young player fit. But it was Brazilian centre-back Luizão, who was much speculated that he was going to leave in the January transfer window, who got us off to a flying start by latching onto a cross from Ollie Scarles, who was named on the subs bench at our senior game at the weekend. Kamari Swire came on for Mbama in the second half, and he had involvement in both our second and third goals. Swire set up Junior Robinson and Sean Moore, who stretched our lead to 3-0. And now Steve Potts' side have beaten Celtic, Valencia and Zagreb, as well as taking a point from Olympic Lyonnais in order to reach the next round. So well done to them. Fantastic. Our next game for the West Ham under-21s is in Premier League 2, where West Ham, second place in the league, host 12th place Chelsea. So look out for details on that. The under-18s were back in action at the weekend, and an opportunity to try and get a revenge on the when they got knocked out in the FA Youth Cup by Man City only a few weeks ago. If you remember, that was a slightly controversial sort of penalty decision that led Man City to winning that game. But unfortunately, not meant to be. Man City, considered to be one of the best youth clubs, or youth systems, should I say, in the country. West Ham United went 2-0 down to them. We managed to get a late goal, but that wasn't enough for Man City to go through to the last 4 of the tournament. So we've been knocked out twice by Man City in the FA Youth Cup and now the Premier League Under-18s Cup as well. Look, we're back in action at the weekend where we play Fulham back in Under-18s Premier League action. We are second in the league there, 3 points behind Spurs, but with 2 games in hand. So a win over Fulham will elevate us back to the top of the league with a game in hand and a superior goal difference as well. How about some injury news? Well, we could start off with, of course, Areola, who was subbed at half-time in the game against Man United, but we've been told it's precautionary. He got a knock when he clashed into Kurt Zouma. Lack of communication there between the two of them. But we've been told he's precautionary, and he will be back for the game against Arsenal on Sunday. What a big game that's going to be for us, eh? Lucas Paqueta, I managed to get a snapshot of a snapshot before it was taken down. He took a snapshot of himself. I think it was on the X app. He was in Rush Green, all kitted out, doing some gym work, and there's been speculation that he could be back in action this weekend. Some people are suggesting that it's too soon for him. Others are saying look out for a return. It will be fantastic if he returns to action. I'm not so sure. We've been seeing him in a lot of posts getting an awful lot of gym work in place, but I'm not so sure it might be too soon for him to come back for the Arsenal game. But oh boy, would it be a massive boost if he was. And we'll look out for that. And another player who could be returning anytime soon, well, it depends on whether he wants to get off the catwalk to show off his new clothes, or I don't know whose clothing that is. But Mikel Antonio has also alluded to on Sky Sports that he's soon be returning as well. So let's see what happens there too. With the greatest of respect to Antonio, I think he's been fantastic for us. But when we're relying on a 33-year-old makeshift striker to come back to save our day because we can't score goals, there's something wrong. And I'm going to talk about the transfer window, or the lack of it, a little later on in the show. But it could be. Look. We need the numbers. We know we've let too many players go in the January transfer window. The windows are meant to strengthen the squad, not weaken them. But there you go. We are West Ham after all. And it would be great to have both Paqueta and Antonio back, if nothing else, just to make up the squad. Well, it'd be more than just to make up the squad numbers, wouldn't it? What about some loan news? Because we've got some decent loan news to bring you. Callum Marshall made his debut for West Brom as the Baggies edged out a 1-0 win over Birmingham City in the Championship. Making his first appearance for West Brom, the forward featured from the bench to help West Brom register a potentially crucial win and he played his part in the winner. He played the ball out wide to Darnell for long, and the low cross was turned home by another new signing, Andreas Wyman, at the front post. I'm really excited by Marshall and how things may develop for him. So I wish him well. And it looks like he's going to get some game time at West Brom, which is fantastic news. And that really bodes well for the player. Absolutely spot on. Fantastic. Freddie Potts was Flynn Downs was in action at the weekend as well. He played 73 minutes before picking up a yellow card for Southampton. They extended their club record unbeaten run to 21 matches where they beat Rotherham 2-0 away from home. Downs was cautioned sorry in the 57th minute, not the 73rd, and was subsequently taken off 16 minutes later so as to not get a second yellow card. But well done to him. He's having a superb season as well. So there's two young players that we've got in the Championship that could potentially be useful for the squad next season. Elsewhere in League One, Freddie Potts, he's also having an excellent season. He played the full 90 minutes for Wycombe Wanderers, who registered a 3-1 win over Cheltenham Town, whilst fellow loanee Gideon Kodua was not involved in the game. I don't want Kodua to languish on the subs bench at Wycombe Wanderers. With the greatest of respect to Wycombe, I'm sure they certainly like Potts, but I hope Kodua gets some decent game time as well, because I quite like Kodua. He's an unsung hero in a way for the under-21s. He led the under-18s to all the glory that we had last season. He's done really well in the under-21s. I'd really like to see him get some game time, but hey, it's not up to us, is it? Elsewhere, Christian Heggie is having an absolutely superb time over in Holland for Club Den Bosch, because he kept his third consecutive clean sheet for the club at the weekend. Well done to him as well. Another who we know is not really coming back, but he's getting some game time. Thilo Kehrer played in the 1-1 draw against Le Havre at the weekend in League One. The German international played the whole 90 minutes, but the 1-1 draw has taken Monaco down to 5th in the table. Other players, Saeed Benrahma, obviously signed right at the end of last week, so he didn't feature in the game at the weekend against Olympique Marseille for Lyon. And elsewhere, Keenan Appiah-Forsand, he's also finally getting a bit of game time. Third full 90 minutes in a row for the young man. He played for Dagenham and Redbridge in the vital 2-1 win over Rochdale at the weekend. The only other player that moved on loan during the transfer window is Daniel Chesters, who was an unused sub in Salford City 3-1 win over Wrexham at the weekend. Right. So let's go into your chat and say hello to everybody. At least I've got that out of the way, because I always end up doing I know you don't want to listen to the women's news, but I'll put it in there anyway, just to piss you all off. Good evening, Foxes. How are you? No win for Moyes in, it's 6 games. Just hand him his P45. I hope you're well, mates. Shaky, good evening to you. Calling it 2021, you were wrong. Toha, good evening to you. 2020, sorry. Usual. Hello, mate. I hope you're well. Anthos. All out, Sully, Brady, and Moyes. Probably not, mate. Flamer, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Liverpool are desperate to bring Moyes to Enfield. 3 years, Europe, 1 plastic cup, Sunderland, Real Sociedad. Mark, good evening, mate. You were all wrong. I was on time again. Steve, if Moyes gets a new contract, Tim is Liverpool bound and protests will start against the board. I don't know. I've heard an awful lot about how many fans are saying that they're not going to renew their season tickets if Moyes stays on. Will that push the board into thinking about their decision? I don't know. I just don't know. Mark, that plastic cup brought us Europe again. Money higher, money, higher quality of player, and more recognition internationally. But it means nothing. Look, I will never. Yeah, I know what people. People don't. If you don't hold the cup that we won to too much esteem, then that's fine. But I think Mark is right. It allowed us to buy decent players because we're back in Europe again. And a cup is a cup. The feeling and the euphoria that we had during that time, the European tour and all that, and then culminating in Prague, and the absolute tremendous support that West Ham brought with it. I'll never forget that, to be quite honest with you. Let's scroll down. Kalispera to you, Keith. I hope you're well. I'm very well, mate. I hope you are too. Good evening to you, Gravy Dave. I'd rather have Pardew back than 2 more years of Moyes. When was the last time Pardew managed a team? Shaky. The cups of 75 and 80 mean more to me than the Conference Cup. At least we played decent opposition. Well, let's go back to the European trophy that we won in the 60s. We didn't play anyone of that, of much worth there. But look, a cup is a cup as far as I'm concerned. Toha. Are my favourite non-plastic cup shape. You keep going on. Daniela, good evening to you. How are you? Are Liverpool really looking at Steidten? I have my doubts. For Liverpool, I'm not a club that will buy talent cheap and sell them on. So I don't see how Steidten fits into the Liverpool profile as a top club. I agree with you. And we discussed that last time I talked about this. And you've got an element of truth there. They won't necessarily, they want to go and buy stars. They want to go and buy players for 30, 40, 50 million pounds. Now, look, Steidten bought players for 30, 35 million pounds for West Ham. And maybe what they may not do is Liverpool is go for the youth and then bring them on and sell them at a profit. But if Steidten can bring the likes of Kudus and Alvarez to West Ham United, I guess Liverpool will probably be thinking much the same thing. I'll come to that a little bit later on. Who else have we got here? Let's scroll down. Good evening, Bill. I hope you're well, mate. Always waiting for Stell the voice. I'm trying to be the voice of reason. When I gave my reason thinking about the game on Sunday, I was really called a bit deluded. But there you go. It is what it is. I unfortunately had to block. I've never done it. I haven't done it for. When I first started this channel, I had a few trolls and stuff like that, and I blocked them. But I haven't blocked anyone for an awful long time. But there's a guy that keeps coming on, and you know what I've got here, when you guys come on and we talk, you offer your views, etc. We've got a mutual respect. Not everyone's going to agree. You don't agree with a lot of the stuff I say. I don't agree with some of the stuff that you guys say. But we've got a mutual respect there. But there was one guy who kept coming on and he kept trolling me and going back to stuff I'd said 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, a month ago, or whatever, and sort of bringing it back. It's it got really frustrating. I had to block him. I couldn't, I felt guilty because this is the West Ham voice. It's meant to give people a voice to talk about, how they feel. But when they start trolling, when they start having digs, personal digs rather than having reasoned conversation, that's when it gets a bit too far and a bit too messy. Anyway, I hope you're well, Bill. The voice of reason is here. Who else have we got? Shaky. Mark, I'll be in the minority here, but the Con Cup meant nothing to me. No quality opposition until the final. We were fortunate to win that. But it's still a win, mate. It's still a win. Toha, does still tire himself out on Monday quiz nights? Needs some extra minutes to recover. Mark, I think most of us get frustrated at the same old tactics. Moyes out, are gambling on perfect scenario, only achieved by the big boys. Can we realistically achieve that to compete on that level? I've talked about this, haven't I? We've got a weaker squad at the moment. I did a show on, when did it go out? Saturday, I think it must have been, or Friday. I can't remember. And I said, we've got 19 outfield players now, which is a lot less than we had. Of course, we let 4 senior players go, if you include Connor Coventry. We let Kera go. We let Fornals go. We let Benrahma go. So we're 4 light. We've got now 19 senior players. And that's going to take its toll. We've already... it's taken its toll already with regards to, injuries, etc. And who's to say, you know, that likes of Zuma are going to get through the season without another injury, or maybe, you know, Bowen might pick up another injury, or Kudus or whatever. We are a bit screwed. And that in itself will make it difficult to continue to be in a perfect scenario. That's on Moyes. I've got to admit, you know, not getting the players in that we needed is on David Moyes. And I'm going to talk about that. I'll do a bit of an analysis for what there is of the transfer window later on. But that is on Moyes. So no, we're never going to be in a position to be able to compete with these big boys, because we don't have a squad big enough of decent players, not only on the bench, but also on the pitch. And I said this, it might have been last week, where that sort of team where when you sign a player, they're going to expect to play, you know, and look at some of the players that have gone because they are not getting game time. So going out there and getting quality players that are going to fill the bench, how are you going to keep them happy if they don't get if they're only on the bench? Evening, Paul. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Trodge. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. NWO, hello there, mate. I hope you're well. And good evening to you, Lord Patrick, too. Aaron, hello, mate. Good to see you here. Good evening, Rani. Hope you're well. Who else have we got? Dan, how are you, mate? It was an improved performance. We just didn't take our chances, and they did. Couple that with our dismal defence, and it was always going to hurt us missing the chances we had. Absolutely spot on. It was an improved performance, and that's what I was alluding to. I wasn't saying, oh, my God, I'm really happy. Look at how West Ham played. I'm walking away happy with the 3-0 win. No, that's not what I meant when I did the review. What I meant was the performance was better. The irony, if we'd played like that against Bristol City, against Bournemouth, against Sheffield United, if we put in a performance like that, we probably would have won and everything would have been hunky-dory. You know, we saved that kind of performance away to Man United. We should have actually played the way we played like against Bournemouth and against Sheffield United, away to Man United, because we may have walked away with a point. That's the irony. But anyway, but you're absolutely right, mate. We rued our missing our chances. English Yardy, hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Rani, I agree with you, Stel. We were better. Not that hard after Bournemouth and Brighton, though. No, admittedly, and I did say it and I called it out, that those performances were pretty poor, pretty dire. But doesn't that give you maybe a glimmer of hope that, you know, maybe we've gone through a bit of a bad patch and we're going to pick ourselves up again? Fingers crossed. I hope so. Arsenal is going to be a massive game on Sunday, isn't it? Good evening to you, Lee. How are you, mate? Hit the like. Yes, please. If you're new to the channel, do hit the subscribe button and the like button. Thank you very much for reminding people of that, Lee. Bill, agree, Stel. I thought player-wise we looked better and a bit more entertaining, regardless of the results. And yet, I'm going to play devil's advocate now. I'm going to play devil's advocate. You know, how many of us have been saying, I don't care about the results so long as we play better? We get beat 3-0. Fuck me, look at the result. How do we lose that? I am playing devil's advocate. I know you should be able to achieve both. Play well and get a good result. But the irony is we've been playing shit, and it has been dire, and we've been getting results. Okay, we haven't won, but we haven't lost games. We go out and put a better performance in, but then we walk away with 3-0 defeat. I don't know. You tell me what football's all about. Mikey, hello, mate. The managerial Grim Reaper has taken us into the darkness. God help us. NWO. We can't. No, we can't. We've got some of the best passes of the ball in our squad, apparently. Phillips, Ward-Prowse, you know, the diagonal balls from McGurd and Bowen and Kudus and all that. And we can't cross the ball. You're absolutely, we can't take proper corners. We can't take proper free kicks. Trodge, Alvarez played well, and Kudus, I guess. Alvarez played extremely well. He did. You know, I think, you know, yet again, proving just what a valuable signing he was. He played with his heart on his sleeve. Absolutely. Kudus, I think I felt sorry for him because he never plays out on the left for, you know, in his career, or very, very rarely. Where does David Moyes put him? Out on the left. And he did nothing until he moved to the right, and he got better when he was on the right. Paul was better. That is a poor Man United team. It absolutely is. I don't deny that at all. Should have had 2 penalties. Well, we should have had definitely one. I don't know about 2, but certainly the one where Zuma got slammed in the face and nothing was given. Weird. Johnson is the worst for crossing. He's not great, I must admit. But to be quite honest with you, I think his performances have been improved vastly lately. Good evening, Colin. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Clive. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining as well. Good evening, Black Country. And good evening to you, Trini, as well. E. Davis. Johnson is doing well. No one can put in a cross when they do. No one is in good position anyway. That is another good point. You know, if you're putting the ball into the middle of the into the 18-yard box, you do hope that there's someone going to be on the end of it. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, James. I hope you're well. Women's team played really well to beat Arsenal. They did indeed. I haven't seen it, but I saw the highlights. And yeah, well done. Well done to them. Well done to them. Keith, I suppose the frustration on Sunday was that Man United seemed to be there for the taking. Oh, if only we had brought in a striker. I agree. That was the, you know what, I know it's later on in the show, but do you know what? When we actually, let me go to it now. If Emerson had scored that chance right at the start of the second half, what would have happened then in that game? You know, because he had a gilt-edged chance to actually put us 1-1 in get us back into the game. Absolutely gilt-edged chance. And, I think he lost his head. I think he got to a point where he was a little bit more like, I don't know what to do now. And he fluffed it. He could have actually crossed it over to Bowen. It was in a marginally okay position. But if he'd have scored that, what would have, I think Man United would have absolutely been there for the taking. I really do. And then Bowen had an opportunity as well. And how often do you see Bowen hesitate? You know, he took that one touch too many, which gave Dalot an opportunity to go and shut him down, which was such a shame, because had we got one of those chances in, who knows what would have how that game would have turned out. You look at the stats of the game. We were in the bloody game. You know, shots on goal. We had 5 shots in total. 19 shots to Man United's 11. 49% possession. Now that's unheard of for West Ham United at any game, home or away. 49%. But what Man United did was, Ten Hag, he out-Moyesed Moyes, didn't he? Because he went, go on then, have the ball. It's up to you. Do something with it. How many times have we said, you know, possession, great. You can have an awful lot of possession, but it's what you do with the possession that counts. And we squandered our chances. It's not that we didn't have chances. We had enough shots. We had, 5 on target, etc. We just couldn't put the effing ball away. And that was the frustrating thing. And of course it means what we all know, that we should have gone out and bought ourselves an effing striker. Well, actually, I didn't expect to get a striker, but I really genuinely thought that we were getting a left-sided attacking player. And as that clock was ticking in the transfer window, I started to think less and less chance of this happening. Therefore, Moyes is likely to turn around to one of the transfer targets that was going out. And I thought he would turn around and go, you're going to stay until the end of the season in order to fill that gap that we've got. Neither of those happened, did it? Anyway, so why did David Moyes allow the likes of Ben Rama and Fornals to go? Well, he came out with a statement, didn't he, in the post-match interview against Man United. And he said various things like, I was wondering if we were going to get anything on target. Let's be fair, it's not just today. It's been in recent games as well. We've not scored as many goals recently. We only got 1 against Bristol City, 2 against Sheffield United, 1 against Bournemouth. But today I felt we made chances. We made better opportunities. I thought we played better today and we got more chances, but we weren't clinical when we got the moments. Well, David Moyes, what does that mean? That clearly means, loud and clear, that we should have done our business in the transfer window and gone for someone who can put the fucking ball away. Really, it's a no-brainer, you know. And the fact that we did much of the transfer window in the same manner as an awful lot of other transfer windows, where we take forever to look at players, you know, pick out players that we want, you know. do you remember I said at once, we'll have a hierarchy of players that we're targeting. There'll be the top level players. These are the ones that we're the first and foremost. These are the ones that we want. And then if we can't get them for whatever reason, we swiftly move on to the next tranche and the next tranche, and until we get someone that's worthy of getting. You don't just go to the bottom of the barrel and go, all right, well, we'll take whatever we got. That's the worst thing. There's no point letting players go if you're going to bring in players who are no better than the ones that you got. But surely to God, knowing for quite a long time that we had a problem in attack, surely to God, he must have known that there were certain targets that you're advanced, don't you? It's not uncommon for clubs to go to another club and go, we're going to be interested in player X. When the transfer window opens, are you open to selling that player? You will know straight a fucking way, whether that player is going to be available or not, or whether the club that wants to sell is looking for, maybe a bidding war or whatever. You'll get a good gist of, there's enough people that you can go to the club, you can go to the agents, you could do a number of things. Yes, is it called tapping up? It's called tapping up if you're going directly to the player. But if you're going to a club and going, we may be interested in this player, there's a negotiation to be had straight away. Isn't that why some clubs do their business within the first day or two of the transfer window opening? Do you think that they make a bid on the Monday and then on the Tuesday they're in? No, because they've kind of they've done the groundwork. Is this player going to be available? Is there an opportunity to sign him? Yes, no. No, we move on. Yes, great. Then he's our number one target. But, Moyes went on to say that he's struggling to find a solution for the left side of attack. That he's been having trouble finding the left side of attack. It came as no surprise that we did not get a player in to cover for the players that left. I offered, who am I? But I said, I did a show at the weekend when I said, there are alternatives that David Moyes could have. There are players that he could, or there are ways of playing that he could utilize that left side of our attack a lot better. I suggested that quite possibly he could put Emerson as a left wing back, play 5 at the back, play Emerson as a left wing back, or if you want to stay with a 4 at the back, a 4-2-3-1, then whilst we've got players out injured, the likes of Paqueta and Antonio, etc., then go and put Johnson as a left back, and then put Emerson as a 3 behind the front man. That would work. How he doesn't know that he could do that, and then sort of says in interviews that he hasn't quite sussed out how to sort out the left side of our attack, is beyond me. It's beyond me. He is the manager. He knows his team. He knows what he can play. He knows that Emerson it can play as a wing back, because we bought him as a kind of player to play in that kind of position. So it makes me wonder why he keeps sort of scratching his head and saying, I haven't found a solution for the left side of attack. You can see I'm getting wound up by it because it's such an obvious thing for Moyes to do. But then what Moyes has to do in order to accommodate that, he's got to drop players that he doesn't want to drop, doesn't he? He'll have to drop the likes of Souček or the likes of Ward-Prowse, who both have not been really sort of doing much over the past few games. Ward-Prowse started off brilliantly. So did Souček. I remember at the beginning of the season, I was singing his praises because he was starting to score goals quite regularly. But they've both fallen away. So when your player falls away, you make a change, don't you? And you look for different ways of playing. There's nothing wrong with going with 5 at the back. In fact, I would have been all right with, when we played Man United, I would have been absolutely all right with playing 5 at the back against them. It would have made an awful lot of sense. We would have gone there and gone, yeah, makes sense. Make us a bit more solid in defence, etc., and try and hit them with our wing backs. I don't understand why Moyes is coming out with these comments saying that he hasn't found a solution to the left side. What's he waiting for? For Paqueta to come back from injury? Because Paqueta is better in the middle, as we all know. Yes, granted, he'll do a job on the left. And yes, granted, because he's got a good rapport with Emerson, they work well together, and that will improve the left side. Absolutely. But we know Paqueta normally drifts into the middle. He doesn't stay. He's not a normal, natural left-sided winger, is he? He'll drift into the middle, and that's where he creates most of our chances. It doesn't always create them from the left side. He drifts in order to make those killer passes and so on and so forth. So I kind of don't understand David Moyes. First of all, I don't understand that, our transfer window, we knew Said Benrahma was one that was going to go. All right, the drama that went on the last day of the transfer window when the deals looked like they didn't go through because of computer errors and the fact that FIFA had to get involved and they ratified both. Now, Leon weren't so complimentary, were they? Where they virtually accused West Ham United of trying to actually sabotage the deal. But he's gone. David Moyes didn't want him to stay. The player didn't want to stay. And Moyes sort of said, he alluded to, trying to give explanations as to why he had to let them go. I get it. I understand it. He said, the players didn't want to stick around. They didn't want it. They wanted to play more, etc., etc. But David Moyes, when you got him, Benrahma, and Fornals leaving the club, and that they're the two players you're likely to rely on to play on the left-hand side of your attack, and you're not getting anybody in order to replace them, then you do what you did with Craig Dawson last season or the season before last, and you turn around to him and say, I'm not quite ready to let you go. When it's time to let you go, we will do so. But whilst you're here, you've got to do a job for West Ham. That's what he should have done. That's what he didn't do. And it's screwed us over, isn't it? It's put us in a very, very tricky position now where we're going to have to struggle. And yet again, David Moyes is going to have to put square pegs in round holes. Right. Kudus is a left-sided football player, a left-footed player. You can almost say, oh, well, it makes sense, doesn't it? No, it doesn't, because Kudus doesn't operate best on the left side of attack. He operates best either in the middle or on the right-hand side, but not on the left-hand side. So that's not the answer. Paqueta can do a job, but that's not really the answer either. The only answers we've got at this moment in time is for either Maxwell Cornet to start. I think hell will freeze over before that happens, where we will see Maxwell Cornet start a game again for West Ham United the rest of this season, or put Emerson up there. Put Emerson in a little more advanced role. Johnson is playing pretty decently at the moment. Trust him. Put him in the back line and put Emerson further up. But it does mean you're going to have to drop a player or two that is your favourite. You're not going to be... People aren't going to... Well, people may point the finger and go, I told you so. Dropping JWP or dropping Souček is the best thing to do. But at least he'll start doing things that we can all see. All right, we're armchair supporters. We're all the best coaches in the world when we sit here and we watch the game, either from our TV sets or at the game itself. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out what he needs to do in order to fill the left side of attack right now. I'm sorry, I've gone completely... I was going to talk about this, but not in the manner... You know what I'm like. I try to be quite organised with all my notes. Now I've fucked up my notes. I don't know where I am. I can't remember what I stopped at and what I didn't stop at. Did I do injuries? Yes, I did. Did I do loans? Yes, I talked about that. This is the transfer roundup, I guess. So let's do a little bit more on transfer roundup, shall we? Because what was really interesting in the transfer roundups is about the players that we were absolutely 100% definitely going to, without a shadow of a doubt, get. And this was our top signing. This was the player that we were going to absolutely get. Ibrahim Osman, our number one target. Well, guess what, people? Ibrahim Osman is still playing football for Danish club Nordsjælland after the transfer window had shut. All this stuff about just pay the money. He's a future star. He's going to be the next Kudus, etc. Oh, my God. Arsenal are in for him. Oh, my God. Spurs are in for him. Surely to God, Moyes must see something in this player that we really must get. Don't let all the opposition get him. He's still playing. No one has gone in for him. No one was willing to pay the 15 million plus the 7-odd million being rumoured as the additional money for agency fees and other stuff. He's still there. So this is a prime example. Look, I dare say there's going to come a point in this young player's life where he's going to get the transfer he wants, whether that be Premier League or another bigger league in Europe or whatever. I'm sure at some point, if he continues to make noises, he will get the transfer he wants. But it's telling, isn't it, that in this transfer window, and what do I always keep saying to you? Don't always believe what you hear, what you read, etc., because sometimes it's an awful lot of noise and nothing more. And this seems to have been an awful lot of noise about this young man. I don't wish him bad. I bet you he will become a good player at some point. But the all this stuff about, there were teams lining up to sign him, and if West Ham didn't, we would have missed out on the next big star, on the next Kudus. Hasn't rung true, because this poor young man, God knows what he must be thinking as a 19-year-old lad, hearing all these rumours that this team is in for him, Premier League teams are up, to getting him, and the transfer window is shut, and he's still where he is. So don't always read and don't always believe what you read and what you hear, because sometimes there's a lot of noise with not an awful lot of substance to it. And the other player, of course, right at the end of the transfer window was Jota or Jota or whatever you want to call him. It doesn't really matter, because I don't have to pronounce his name, because he hasn't signed for West Ham either. And Al Ittihad, the Saudi team, has now registered. I mean, how ironic. They bought him for £25 million. There was an awful lot of noise that he was going to go because he wasn't registered. Then apparently Al Ittihad wanted 30 odd million pounds or more for him. And then what did they do a couple of days before the transfer window shut? They registered him so he can actually play not only in the cup competitions, but also in the league. Was there an element of truth there for either of those players? I think there was. I think there was talk about Osman and Jota, but it wasn't anywhere near as maybe we would have thought. Now, we heard the stories about young Osman, and apparently someone in Sullivan's ear saying, I don't think you should touch this with a barge pole, especially with all these dodgy agents coming up saying that they held the rights for the player and all that sort of stuff. But it is what it is. I personally don't think that either of those two players were really our prime targets. I think we had other targets. Bergwijn, maybe. I don't know. That sort of died a death as well, didn't it? I think there were targets. And I heard only in the comments that people were making in one of my shows the other day, apparently David Moyes was offered something like 8 to 10 left-sided attacking players by Steidten, and he turned them all down. I've asked, is that true? And I was told, no, there's no truth in that. It's quite possible that there may have been one or two, maybe Osman, maybe Bergwijn at some point. But I've been told there's absolutely not true that 8 to 10 players were offered. But then I don't know either, because I'm not an ITK, so I can't tell you otherwise. All I can do is tell you what I'm told. So this rumor that apparently 8 to 10 were offered and David Moyes stubbornly turned them all down, apparently is not true. But anyway, let's go into your chat, and then I'll get on with what else have I got to do? We're going to talk about Moyes and his contract, and we're going to talk about Steidten, aren't we? But let's do your comments first. James, what are people's thoughts on Ward-Prowse? Do we see him being starting 11 is working? He's lost. Yeah, I've mentioned him. He's lost his way a little bit. And if David Moyes wants to, well, as I've already said, if David Moyes wants to sort out the left side of attack, he's going to have to drop one of the central midfielders. Can't be Alvarez. For the love of God, it can't be Alvarez. Moyes has realised that Phillips needs a bit more game time. I felt sorry for Phillips. 2 kamikaze passes, both he lost control of, which led to goals. Do I blame him? I think he's just fucking unfortunate. That it was, ironically, it was Johnson that missed the pass to him whilst he had 2 players on him. Why pass it when you've got 2 players on top of Phillips? And it was also similar in Zuma giving him the ball the other last week as well, when he lost the ball and Bournemouth scored at the beginning of the game. But no, I think sometimes you just need to remove the players and give them a respite and give them a bit of a breather, and then maybe bring them back in a game or 2 later. Who else have we got? Philip, good evening to you. If Sullivan gives him a contract, it will show his total contempt for us. He must be aware of the hatred of the shocking dross served up to us. Do you know, I mean, I talked about this again recently, and I might as well get on it now. This whole thing about that, Dave. There are apparently polls going around asking if David Moyes is given a new contract, will you renew your season tickets? And apparently, quite a large number of people are saying no, they won't. I'm a bit torn on this one because I support West Ham United. I don't support David Moyes, much to the disbelief of a lot of people that watch my channel who think I'm just purely Moyes in. I support West Ham. So when I think about renewing my season ticket, the first thing I think of is, can I afford to do it? Yes, I can. Great. Now I'm going to go and renew it. I renewed it when we were sort of under Allardyce and under other managers, etc., etc. So I'm going to renew it now. That's not because I'm supporting David Moyes. It's because I support West Ham United. And it took me years to build up my away my away tickets points. Which now gives me the privilege of being, when away games come up, I'm lucky enough to be able to get to most of them, if not all of them. And that's because I've built up my points over the years. Am I going to give all that up and go back to the back of the queue when David Moyes is gone? No, fuck that, am I? Of course I'm not. I'm going to renew. But there may be times when I might reconsider whether I want to go to a particular game or not. If David Moyes is still in charge, I may turn around and go, you know what, that next game against, I don't know, Man United or whatever, away from home, I might think twice about it. But then the beauty of football is you go to a game not expecting anything, you come away with a win, and that just makes you feel sky high. When we went to Arsenal and we won the game there and we beat them, and the way we beat them, just like it just makes you go, yes, this is why I go to football. This is why I support West Ham United, because they can come up with the unknown like that. There will be times when we know we should be winning and we end up getting thumped, Fulham, 5-0, whatever the score was. And there are other times when we go, we just know what's going to happen. And then we walk away going, fuck me, we just beat them at their own territory, and that's the beauty of football. So with the question, if anyone asks me, if David Moyes gets given a new contract, will you renew your season ticket? The answer is a resounding yes. But that's not because I'm a cock a hoop because David Moyes might be given a new deal. It'll be because I support West Ham United. And don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting for a minute that those who don't renew are not West Ham United fans. Of course you are. You all are. And you all have that right. You all have that right to go, I want to put up with this or I don't want to put up with this. And absolutely fair play. That's your prerogative. Absolutely. But it's the unknown, isn't it? It's when, I could have come away from Man United yesterday with a 1-1 draw, or a 2-1 win. And I would have gone, this is why I do it. This is why I go through the pain barrier in order to get that momentary glimmer of hope and success and that euphoric feeling of walking away from a game with a good win. And I'm sure those days will come back. Under Moyes, we're gonna win, we're gonna lose games, we're gonna draw games. Admittedly, the football has been absolutely poor. I don't disagree with that one bit. Right, let's go to more of your comments. James to NW. No, I'm really struggling to see the benefit of him to be in the starting 11. I think you're talking about Ward-Prowse. We just bring him on for free kicks. If only we could play football like American football, where we get specialist players on. Whenever there's a corner on a free kick, we go, right, 2 minutes, what do you call it? Switch. On comes Ward-Prowse, takes the corner, takes the free kick. Right, when the ball's out of play, back he goes on the bench again. What would that be like? What would that be like? Maltese Hammer, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, Martin. I hope you're well. And good evening to you as well, James. I hope you're well. Keith, I'm going to get it in early. Don't forget to like. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Do hit the like button, do hit the subscribe button, do hit the bell notification. What's my target? I'm on 5,500 subscribers. Thank you. Let's get it to 6 before the end of the season. That would be really nice. I'd really appreciate that. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, Funky T. How are you? Kept up from relegation, 3 years in Europe on the trot, 1 semi-final, a final and a winners, 3 out of 4 seasons in the top 7. I'm a West Ham supporter, not a Moyes supporter, and West Ham United are doing okay. I agree with all of that. Absolutely agree with all of that. Does that mean that Funky T or I like the kind of football that's being served up? No, it doesn't mean that. But what it means is we're West Ham fans through thick and thin, no? CC, good evening to you. Hello, everyone. Disappointing loss at OT, but haven't won there since 2007. But despite losing, feeling happier with our play. That's how I felt. I felt a little bit happier with the way we put ourselves about. Defending, not great. Attacking, not great. But all the rest of it was all right. Toha, if we do have a new manager in June, will Kara Benny Downs come back? Quite possibly. Kara would look at it, I think, and go, well, why not? I think Monaco have got an obligation to buy. Excuse me. I think Benny would come back, without a doubt. And I think Downs is good enough to come back. Flynn Downs has played extremely well. He's one of the best players stats-wise in the Championship. And he was one of the best players stats-wise, or the best player for passing, etc., in the Championship when he was at Swansea when we signed him up. I don't know what Moyes doesn't see in him, to be quite honest with you. Good evening, Neil. Moyes, 4 years, £450 million spent, still no real forward. We appear to hit the Groundhog Day, the crap football, no hope for youth. Giving Moyes another contract would be insane. I'm going to disagree with the youth because putting Callum Marshall, getting him a loan to a Championship team that's trying to get back into the Premier League, probably through the playoffs, probably won't get an automatic place, but certainly good enough at this moment in time, in a great position to be in the playoffs. I think that speaks volumes because we always keep asking, why doesn't the youth get a chance? You know, if Callum Marshall continues to do well, he started off well, came off the bench for West Brom, helped them win that game against Birmingham City. I'm guessing he's going to get quite a few chances. Now, if at the end of the season, he's had a really successful half a season at West Brom, he comes back to West Ham, and then David Moyes doesn't put him in the first team or in the first team squad and gives him game time, I will then agree with you that there's no hope for the youth. But you look at the players that, you know, in the youth that we have. You know, I've mentioned them already earlier in the show, where we have players going to League One sides, players going to League Two sides, and not even managing to get in the team. You know, not even managing to get game time. And then we expect them to come straight back and go, well, you know, they've done their duty, they've been on loan. If they're not good enough to be able to get into the first 11 of a League One or a League Two side, how much chance is there going to be for them to get into the senior side at West Ham United? Callum Marshall is a completely different scenario because he's gone to the Championship just like Flynn Downs. That's why I like Flynn Downs. You know, he won't be the most exciting player, but Flynn Downs will do a job for you in the centre of midfield. You know, not as a starter, but certainly as a decent backup player who should have been getting more game time last season. And hopefully both Downs and Marshall, if they come back at the end of this season, and if Moyes is still here, and then they don't get a look in, then I would agree, Neil, that the youth don't have a chance. Crap football, totally agree. You know, yesterday, the game against Man United, we did play better. But yeah, I agree. Also, with no real forward or no real attacking player, I think it's madness that we haven't managed to find a player that can fit Moyes' type of mold up front. Shaky. I'm more than happy being in the minority. It's only opinions. We all know what opinions are. Everyone's got an opinion, so long as you respect each other. That's all that counts. Ray, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Excuse me. Trodge, this window was the same as Fat Sam's one. Yeah. I remember. Yeah, he didn't get players in either, did he? Or didn't get the players that we needed in. Mark, not renew a season ticket, virtual signalling or cutting their nose off. Ticket will be taken by someone else, no problem. Would the club care? No, quite frankly, the club will not care because there will be a queue of people that will go and say, I'll take that, thank you very much. Has Budgie gone? Has Clive gone? Good night to you, Clive. I hope you're well. Rani, see, ST poll is nonsense. Sully couldn't give two hoots if people renew or not. He will just work his way down the 20-odd thousand on the waiting list. He really doesn't value long-term loyalty fans. Well, I kind of agree with that, but I also agree that why should he care? So long as he's got bums on seats, why should he care? I'm not saying that's right, but why should he care? Keith. I was at St. George's Park watching the cup game at a function, and 3 other West Ham fans in the bar. Didn't go to the function room at all. Best night ever. One I'll remember. Which game was that? Was that the game last week, the under-21s, Keith? Old man, good evening to you. Hi, Stock. Can see a repeat of last season in Europa League. Fade away, mid-table, be lucky to go further than quarterfinals. Then the squad dismantling will start. That's my fear, to be quite honest with you, mate. I'm thinking much the same way that quite possibly we could. This could be the start of a bit of a slide. You know, going down from 6th to 7th. Many people are going to argue that is one place down isn't too bad. But if we lose against Arsenal at the weekend, and then then we're away to Forest, etc., all of a sudden you start seeing mid-table looming, and then before we know it, we've got the European game coming up as well. Hammerette, good evening to you. You're late. What time do you call this? I hope you're well. DeCanio WHU, good evening to you. Supporters don't turn on the club during bad time. It's what I've been trying to say, and I'm trying to be really careful how to say it, what to say, etc. Because I don't want people thinking that I don't care about whether they renew or not. Of course, 1 or 2 of my friends have suggested that they'll think twice about renewing too. But yeah. And the irony is these aren't quite bad times. We're not playing good football, but it's not as if we're struggling down the relegation zone and we're already out of Europe, just like we are at the domestic games. We've still got quite a few, quite an awful lot to play for. But you support the team through thick and thin, don't you? But please don't get me wrong, people. I'm not suggesting if you're planning on not renewing your season ticket, that's not having a go at you. Please don't misunderstand that. Ultra, good evening to you. I don't mind us playing low block sometimes, but we're literally doing it every game. I agree. We didn't play it against Man United, though, to be quite honest with you. Mark, I got threatened with a ban on one channel just for my opinion by a spanner with a spanner. If they're not emotionally strong enough to have a conversation, don't enter. That's why I've got decent, really. I hardly ever sing their praises. My moderators like Hamret and Daniela and Clive, etc., and Shaky, etc. They do a fantastic job behind the scenes for me, and I'm really, really happy that they, I didn't even give them guidelines. Just say, just be common sense. So I'm sorry to hear that you've been threatened with a ban. Hamret, any chance we'll let Benny and Fornals go to get wages off the bill? Phillips is on a high wage. Yeah, well, Phillips has come in on a high wage, but and there is that rumor that we let them go just to get them off the bill. But we've saved ourselves something like Kera 70, Fornals 70, Ben Rama, about on 70 each. I think Coventry was on something like 25, 30. So you're looking at maybe saving 220, 230,000 pound a week. Phillips has come in on around 130,000 pound a week. So we still had enough money in our kitty to get another player in. We didn't just need to get one player in. We really needed two. Black Country. The more I look at Stell, he looks like Bagpuss. Mate, what? How dare you? One of the moderators says, please ban him, will you? Good evening, Richard. I hope you're well. We played well in the first half, but weren't clinical in front of goal. Absolutely. I mean, that chance, he was coming towards us, and we thought Emerson, you nicking the ball off. I don't know who he nicked it off, but was it Maguire, wasn't it? Nicking the ball off Maguire, running the length of the pitch, the half length of the pitch. He looked up. I thought he knows exactly where he's going to place it. And then he hesitated. And then he looked like he lost his footing. And fuck me, he blew it, didn't he? But anyway, James, they let Benny and Fornals go to accommodate Village's wages and loan. But, it wasn't just that. We yes, I guess there's an element of truth in that, but we still had enough money in the kitty to be able to get a second player in the transfer window. Andy, good evening to you. I saw Coventry play for Charlton against Derby. He was probably Charlton's best player, but in no way looked Premier League standard. Interesting that. Good luck to him. I hope he forges a decent career, that young lad. NWO, first team in Premier League and Euro Kids and Cups. I didn't understand that. You're going to have to explain. Trudge. Zuma looks like he can't kick a ball now due to injury. Absolutely, he can't. Shouldn't keep kicking the cat, should he? That's the problem. He does seem to be getting worse, Trudge, to be honest with you. There's no lie there. Good evening, Stephen. I hope you're well, mate. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got here? Let's get some other comments here. CC. I've been a West Ham supporter since 1970, season ticket holder, even though I live over 300 miles from the London Stadium. I'm fed up and angry with fans dissing the Conference Cup. I'm not dissing it. It was one of the best days of football in my life. Did we play shit against Fiorentina? I can give two hoots. We won that competition. The European tour that preceded it was immense, and that will live with me forever. And I was lucky to be there. I'm with you, mate. I wouldn't diss that competition. Paul, been low blocking for so long, forgot the basics in attack. Good point. Good evening, Ralph. I hope you're well. Been getting results still. How many games without a win now? 6, I'm afraid. But our first defeat in something like 11. So you can do your stats in different ways. Hammer it. What gets me amongst lots is that we have cover for defenders. We can afford to drop one for poor form and inability to run at any sort of pace against the Manx. True. GJ, good evening to you. When you was a boy, was you called English half? The jokes have come in early tonight. Bill, the 4-4-2 analysis of Arsenal's win over Liverpool was very detailed. Hopefully, Henry Newman, our opposition analyst coach, takes a watch. I haven't watched that, but it might be worth a watch. CC, I was in Prague. I suspect fans dissing the conference just watch from their armchairs. Rani, also only 3 losses in 3 months, Ralph. Statistics and all that. Yeah, you can cut statistics any way you want. Stephen, Moyes does not have a clue. I wonder what the players are saying behind his back. Mikey, Moyes blamed Bowen for Emerson not being able to pass it. Listen to his post-match presser. Absolute joke. Yeah, that's where I took some of the comments here. Oh man, our team reminds me of the old England conundrum where the midfield had too many players for the positions available. Who was that? That's when Scholes decided to give up our best midfielder, one of our best midfielders at the time, because he was pushed out left. He decided to give up playing for England to accommodate Lampard and Gerrard. Anyway, where the midfield had too many players for the positions available, so ends up playing players out of position instead of having a balanced team. Dan, the goals from open play have dried up, 2 in our last 6, and that's the biggest issue. Really shows how much we rely on set pieces too, and we've been dreadful at set pieces. Good evening to you, Victor. Still, we keep on about buying strikers. Moyes doesn't know how to use a natural striker. I agree, which is why when the transfer window opened, I said, I doubt very much we're going to get a striker, but let's hope we get a left-sided attacking player who can play across that front line. I agree. Robin Irons, good evening to you. Johnson in for Souček for me against the Gooners. Phillips is a liability and another shit signing by Moyes. Flynn Down should never have been loaned out. Another crap move by Moyes. I do honestly think that Phillips will come good. However, I do think it's going to take him another 4 or 5 games to do that. We haven't got that luxury, have we? But I do think he'll actually come good. And once he's fully on form, I think, we'll benefit from it. But, do we have that time to actually wait for him, to come good? I agree. I don't think Flynn Down should have been moved on, to be quite honest with you. I agree with you there. James, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. If you let 2 players leave, it's ridiculous not to bring in reinforcements. We need a strike partner for Kudus. I totally agree. Good evening to you, Chris. I hope you're well, mate. Good evening, Jonathan. Just my opinion, but it is not the result. It's the stat of play, and I don't think Paqueta will be the difference at the moment. He took 4 of his defensive midfielders just to add a defender. Well, good point. I think we will be different, to be honest, Jonathan. I think Paqueta will give us something completely different that we're lacking: creativity at the moment. I don't like Bone as a striker, old man. He is better on the wing. I agree with that. And I think probably what we might see, if Paqueta's not back or Antonio not back for the Arsenal game, we might see a switch on Sunday. I think it's quite possible Kudus will play in the middle and Bowen go back out on the right-hand side. But who's he going to play on the left? I actually don't mind if we play a 5-3-2 5-3-1-1 or 5-4-1 formation against Arsenal. I know that you think that might sound crazy at home, but I don't think I'd mind that because I want to see Emerson. He's unless he's going to play Cornet, and we know he's not. I want to see Emerson as a wing back. I think he can cause Arsenal an awful lot of trouble. And knowing that he's got 3 central defenders behind him. Mikey, Moyes' second stint at West Ham, 74 losses in 498 days so far. Dean, evening still, evening to you, mate. I thought it was brilliant when Moyes bemoaned our lack of left side. Oh, fuck me. Of all the things that he had to come out with, he had to come out with that. The bleeding bloody obvious. That fucks me off about Moyes. I've sworn a lot tonight, so I apologize. That does my head in about Moyes. Absolutely. That all of a sudden he's gone, oh, I don't have anything on the left side of midfield. Oh, no shit, Sherlock. Really? Mate, what are you going to, what? Then do something. He's got it within his reach to be able to do something. He can go through at the back. He can go through at the back and have wing backs. And have Emerson as a wing back. He can put Johnson, who's playing quite well at the moment, as left back and push Emerson as a 3 attacking middle. But that will mean dropping either Souček or Ward-Prowse. And that's the problem. NWO, Phillips has been switched twice with bad passes, but he looked rusty as an old anchor. Don't disagree there. Eric, I agree with Moyes to get rid of Benrahma. I don't disagree with it. But the point I think I was making earlier on, to be honest with you, is if you know that those players are going, be absolutely 100% sure you're signing at least one player to come in to cover that area. Don't let them go and then not even get a bloody player in to cover. What he should have done was, is should have looked at the situation and gone, we're not getting a player in. We're not getting a left-sided attacking player in. And turn around to one of those two and go, you will get your move in the summer. I guarantee you, you will get your move in the summer, but we need you here and now to fill the void until the end of the season. He did that with Craig Dawson. He turned around to Dawson, who wanted to leave at the beginning of, was it the season before last? I can't remember, when he wanted to leave. And he made Dawson stay until the January window, I think it was. And then he let him go. And that's what Moyes should have done. Moyes should have taken control of the situation and gone, I know you both want to go. I know you're both unhappy. I know you both want more game time, etc. But one of you is staying until the summer, until I in a position to get myself a replacement. Manage the situation, manage it and say what you expect, what you want. Shaky. Mark, everyone is entitled to opinion. It should be a catalyst for engaging debate, unless, of course, it's an opinion you've to agree with. Don't worry about it. Be nice. Yeah, everyone's got an opinion, which is why this show happens. Soha. Antonio is moonlighting, but in the open, huge wages as a football player by putting on more effort in podcasting and being the next Zoolander. Let me go back to his photo. Where is it? Because I tell you, mate, you're doing yourself no favors there. Look at that. He's advertising a pineapple, isn't he? He looks like a pineapple. But I don't know what he's up to. You know what, Antonio? I hope you come back and absolutely smash it. Score 10 goals, top player, get another new contract until you're 49 years old, and everything will be fine. Mark, evening to you, mate. Should be a very interesting summer transfer window. I hope Steidten stays fit, stays for it. I'm going to talk about him in a moment. Mike WHU. That's why Moyes should go. He has a couple of seasons and hasn't got a left winger or a centre forward. Keith, wait for Creswell to be there on Sunday. It won't. I really do think, he's either got to go 5 at the back or he's got to go and put Johnson on the left side. Chip, good evening to you. But is Moyes insisting on Premier League ready for his unicorn striker? In which case, Ivan Antonio is about the only option. 100 million, Sully would have a fit. Well, he could be. That's a really good point. Maybe he wants someone that's Premier League proven. He ain't going to get it, is he? Neil, left-sided player. What the fuck is glued to the bench? Oh, yeah. Cornet. I agree. Michael, another one. What's wrong with Cornet on the left side? Absolutely nothing, mate. Absolutely nothing. 18 months ago, Moyes thought he was worth a 17 million punt. That's what I said. I said earlier, and I said in the show I did at the weekend, he has got options. It's not that he hasn't got options. He has got options. My preference would be push Emerson further up. But if you don't do that, then absolutely correct. Play with Cornet. Start with Cornet and see what he can give you. Rani, the Cornet conundrum is even more baffling now that he's basically our only natural option and he still can't get... Okay, fair play. He came on with about 20 minutes to go against Man United. I was shocked. I was absolutely... I was like, he's bringing on Cornet. And hang on a minute. There's not 3 minutes to go. There's 20 minutes to go in the game. And maybe he now realizes he's got no bloody choice. Espen, good evening to you. He's struggling to find a solution for the left side and decided to push the most to get in a central defensive midfielder. Absolute genius. I don't have a problem with Phillips coming in. I do honestly think that once he finally hits the ground running, he will be good for us. But it wasn't the absolute needs must, was it? It wasn't. We needed players elsewhere. We were all suggesting that he was either going to get a defender or he was going to get a left-sided player, and he got neither. It wasn't the priority to get a central defensive midfielder, was it? Neil, Moyes is only concerned with defence, but very little idea about attacking. Can't disagree with that. Paul, Cornet looks good when we do see him. At least he's putting an effort in. Toha, Souček scored the goals when he was pushed up front in the last few minutes of a game. May as well stick him up top from the beginning. Does nothing in the middle at the moment. He's been poor the last few games. You know, like I've said many a time, credit where credit's due, but criticism when that's due as well. NWO, we had a kid play there in the Euro or Cup game. Look good enough. Anyone know who I mean? Well, there was Ollie Scarles, of course, who was on the subs bench at the weekend. I think he's been on the subs bench now for the last 2 senior games. Will he get game time? Old man. Moyes is only concerned with defence. He just tells attackers to go and play. He can't coach attacking. Daniela, we may have to go 3-5-2. I don't mind. I really don't. Go 3-5-2 or go 5-4-1. I don't mind. Do something different that will make the team more balanced. Bill, when Heitinger appears to be involved in Moyes' ear on touchline, we appear to play better. You could be right. Many have said that Heitinger does give Moyes quite a few tips. So, yeah, you're probably right. Trudge, true. And look at Kudus and Paqueta. Tackling stats are unreal. Chippy. Is it Chip or Chippy? Chip. I'm going to go for Chip. There's a pool of tears in the car park made up of Kral, Fornals, and Benny. Tears, Trini. Let's not beat about the bush. His actions have left us thinner than before. He seems to be clueless. It is odd. It is the oddest thing to have done for him to have depleted the squad. Absolute madness. Mark. Cornet's a winger. Moyes likes a wide midfielder who cuts inside. Pinar at Everton, player for player where Everton of old. That gets my criticism. It generally works, but he doesn't change it up at times. And speaking of Everton, good evening, Rico. I hope you're well, mate. So thank you for joining. We're coming up there soon. I don't know if you're going to the home game, but if you are, message me. Let's see if we can have a beer together. Trini, let's have it right. Our midfield should be Phillips, Alvarez, and Pacman. Yeah. I mean, you know, when Phillips is singing properly, yes, I wouldn't agree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. Shaky, what about Trini? What about Johnson pushing into midfield? He was a different level a few games back. He was great. He was absolutely great when he played against Sheffield United. But for me at the moment, I think we do have issues. Soufal's not playing great at the moment. You know, I think I'd rather maybe see Johnson go as right back, or I'm going to keep pushing this. If we want Emerson to play further forward, put Johnson in as left back. Bill, West Ham named 20 players they were looking at. I took a note and checked them the other day. None had moved or changed. There you go. You know, how many of them were really realistic targets, mate? It's good. I'm glad you did you should send me that list. I could do a show on that. Excuse me. I forgot to put a video break in, so you're going to have to watch me drinking water every now and again. Montana, hello, mate. I feel the board will hold out till the summer. What is the point of giving Moyes a new contract at this time? I'm going to come to that in a moment, mate. Old man. Apparently, Tottenham making Osman clubs a feeder club, and the Spuds told them we want him, don't sell him to West Ham. Interesting. That's a new one to me. You may be right. I really don't know, but that's interesting. English Yardie. Still, it's obvious if Moyes stays, Steidten is leaving West Ham. Steidten wants to manage coach who's on a manager or coach who's on the same page as him. Moyes isn't a progressive coach and his tactics aren't good. Is now the time for me to go into that? Let's do a few more comments and then I will. Rani. Apparently linked with 80 players in this window. No way were we interested in all of them. Plenty of lazy recycled journalism going on there. Absolutely true. Espen, I could have done another 50 shows in the transfer window with all the links that we had. I couldn't be asked because there's no point. Espen, there are teams lining up to snatch Moyes as well if we don't give him a new contract. I bet Crystal Palace will take him. Epic. We paid a £7 million loan fee for Camp. We didn't. It was a lot less than that, mate. Should have spent the money on Osman's agent's fee instead. I don't know. I did say I wasn't sure about Osman in the minute we were linked to him. I kept asking myself and saying to you guys, I don't get that one. Maybe one for the future, and wouldn't be surprised if he's one that we might have looked at in the summer window, but not in this window that's just gone. And the loan fee was about only 3 million. In the end, Montana, we got thrown. We got the wrong midfielder from City. Foden was right there, and Moyes chose Phillips. Well, tells you all you need to know. Trodge, do we add Leon and Betis to the list with Sporting to the clubs that won't deal with us? I did ask. I said, "Come on, mate. What the hell has gone on with this? Are we trying to sabotage these deals?" And I was told, absolutely not. There was a blip in the computer system. The fact that FIFA have checked that and accepted that and allowed both deals for Fornals and for Benrahma to go through seems to suggest that it wasn't sinister. But I don't know. I wasn't there. So I think Leon, they have stuffed them. I thought we had a good relationship with Leon. You know, we got Paqueta from there. We've done quite a few deals. Excuse me. With Leon, I think, over the past. But I think they've blown it. Betis, no, I think they'll still come looking for other players if they believe they need them. Shaky, I have a deja vu feeling about Phillips. Get fit for England and gone at the end of the season. Wouldn't surprise me. To be honest, Shaky, it wouldn't surprise me. If he delivers for us, though, fine. I'll accept that. I don't expect to keep him. I think the wages are prohibitive anyway. So it wouldn't be surprised me if he gets fit. You know, so long as he delivers for us, then fine. Bill, because of the improvement in Johnson's game, I thought the contract deal had to be concluded. It is being renegotiated, and there's hope that he will get the contract that he wants. Hammerstad, Emerson looked tired in the match. I wonder if he was ill. Mate, he was flat out because he was doing all the effing running. You know, I feel sorry for Emerson. He's been putting a lot of effort in over the last few games. And I think he's the one that's been picked most out of all the players this season. He played every game. Funky T. Moyes, imagine if he went injured. We really are fucked. Creswell, where are you? Funky T. Moyes would suggest we do have 4 strikers. Antonio, Ings, Mabama, Bowen. Between them, they've scored 21 goals this season. Good stat. That's an interesting stat. But Ings playing as a number 10 against Sheffield United was a bit of a revelation. Mabama, I think Callum Marshall might be proving that he'll be a better player than Mabama. Antonio, when he comes back after injury, who knows what Antonio we're going to get. Bowen, I don't mind Bowen being played up front, to be quite honest with you. I think Bowen is decent. Evening, David. I hope you're well, mate. Rani, agreed with Shaky. So refreshing to see a player looking like they're genuinely enjoying themselves. Toho, didn't your friend start that? He started one of them. Sean did one of them. There's a few others that are going around at the moment as well about if Moyes gets a new contract, will you keep your season ticket? What do you think of what I said, though? You know, I mean, are any of you thinking, if you're season ticket holders, are any of you thinking of giving your season ticket up? Or is it, I don't care. I'm a West Ham fan. I'll support them through thick and thin. I don't care who manages. What's your thoughts? Martin, poor debut for Phillips. There's a sure sign is going to be great between now and the end of the season. Let's hope so, mate. West Ham forever. Good evening to you. You can't say it was over, though, for the Man United game. That was clearly Philip. You can't say it was over's thought. overthought for the Man United game. That was clearly Phillips. He had enough time in Premier League and professional player are used to close gaps and under a lot of pressure. I get what you're saying. Yeah, that's fair play. I think I don't know. You see it both ways. I agree with you. You know, he should have known. He should have been able to sort of control the ball quicker or pass it away from him if he thought he was under danger. But when Mavropanos has done this quite a few times, where he's got on the ball and he's played it into the middle of the park when there are opposition players around the player that he's passing it to. And 9 times out of 10, it'll end up being taken off the player. So it's not just Phillips that's suffered from this. We seem to have a habit this season of passing the ball into danger areas where players are under pressure. So I get what you're saying. You know, he's professional enough to be able to deal with it. But that's twice now it's happened. So maybe it is just because he's rusty. Dan, on the season tickets, it's a lot of money for most people. And to pay that sort of money to watch this dross is clearly the sticking point for a lot of people. Can't blame them. Don't disagree. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that people should pay good money if they don't feel they're being entertained. I get that, absolutely. Trini, Moyes initially had us difficult to beat with a dangerous counter-attack. He has shelved that and now plays God knows what. Yeah, he needs to get back to that, doesn't he? You know, he does need to. So, again, why I won't mind if we go with a back five, you know, a sort of a wing-back system. So in order to be able to affect a counter-attacking play a bit better. Hammer it. I won't be giving up my season ticket, but must admit I chose not to travel to Manchester yesterday because I didn't think the 7-hour round trip was worth it. Sad times. English Yardie. The one thing that hurts Moyes is he's not relatable to the modern day footballer. These footballers are built different today. Each player is different as a manager, coach. You must know that. I totally agree. And I just wonder, maybe is that why Alex Ferguson initially chose him to replace him at Man United? Because Ferguson was a little bit like that. You know, Ferguson had favourites, and he, you know, he put every effort into those players because he knew he was going to get something out of them. But he was also one that would discard players if he didn't think that they were up to it, etc. And Moyes has got that similar sort of philosophy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to liken Moyes to Alex Ferguson. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about the style of management. You know, Ferguson was quite harsh with players when he thought he had to be. And maybe that's why he thought Moyes was going to be a good alternative to him when Ferguson retired. But that doesn't work well with a modern day footballer. Look at the issues that Ferguson ended up having with Beckham. You know, ended up moving him on. He was one of the best players that Man United had at the time, but he got sick of him. And there was that centre-back, forgotten his name, Jack Stam, you know, who apparently criticised the Neville brothers, and he got promptly booted out of Man United. So Ferguson had that approach and is like, well, you know, don't do the way I want you to do things and be the way I want you to be. You're out the door. And Moyes has got a little bit about that of him. Got a different way of approaching it, but similar, you know, but he doesn't seem to get on well with a modern day footballer. I agree. Old man, we can lump the ball up as Bowen and Kudus aren't physically imposing enough. We can't lump the ball up as Bowen and Kudus are physically not imposing enough. Wait till Antonio comes back. Long ball counter attack. We'll be back again. I thought that was boring football. You know, hoof it to Antonio and hope for the best. Kudus has got that. Kudus, he's strong. You know, he's got an interesting style of way of playing because when he gets the ball, he almost crouches, almost makes himself smaller. He's not the tallest of guys, but he almost crouches, and the control he has, I think he's got the physicality to do that sort of job, but very different to Antonio. I do agree. Trini, Moyes has got to go at the end of the season. His blind stubbornness should not be tolerated because, let's be honest, what has he brought us? Let's not go into that, shall we? Because you know I can reel off quite a few things. But anyway, Montana. Still, people are acting like without Moyes, the club would crumble. Come on now. No, it's not what I'm saying. We need better management and in-game changes. Moyes is a dinosaur. Don't disagree with that. And I'm not suggesting that we will crumble. But what I do think is that we may not be getting top 6 finishes under other managers. That doesn't mean we'll crumble. We won't be going back to playing relegation football or anything like that. But I don't think it'll be quite the same way as what we've currently had. That's not to say we should keep Moyes because he frustrates the hell out of me as well. James, If Sullivan lets the lunatics run the asylum, then I'm really going to start writing him hate mail, pompous hate mail, obviously. For fuck's sake, the entitlement amongst some of us is staggering. Mr. Shios, good evening to you. None of us who watch most of the West Ham channels can't make a difference. None of us who watch most of the West Ham channels can't make a difference. But if all you guys got together, West Ham chat, Clan Booze, you still got talking and let Whetstone know how real fans feel. I think Whetstone, Sean knows. We do talk. Sean's aware. Sean, I'm not saying Sean is dismissive of it just for the sake of it, but he sees things in very, very different ways. Montana. Even relegation fodder clubs would not take Moyes as their manager. That should tell you a lot about his tactics. I think Palace would take him. Funky T. Still, I know if I'm just not being nostalgic, I've supported West Ham for 50 years. It was all about loyalty and support them through good or bad. What's going on? We know what we are. I'm saying I'm old, and I've supported. We've seen shit times, really shit times. Not about, we're playing shit football. It's like we're playing football that's relegating us times. And I think there's a lot of you in this chat that have seen the same, and you support West Ham. It doesn't matter. I supported West Ham through Allardyce, supported West Ham through Avram Grant. You want a bad manager? Avram Grant. That was bad. That was pretty bad. Tail end of Allardyce's tenure was pretty bad. He was arrogant beyond anything, where he thought that he knew everything and no one mattered. That was pretty poor. We've seen some shocking times. Absolutely shocking. Even before that, some shocking times. I agree. But you support West Ham because you're West Ham. As we say, it's in your blood. West Ham through and through, Let's scroll down. Keith. Ralph. I love the bond scheme. The protests were great. Great to watch. They were interesting times. Yeah. Hammerstad. Man United defended well. Nearly all our crosses and corners were snuffed out. Agree with that. Trini. Why do people trust Moyes' judgment on any player, much less young players? Watch out for Callum Marshall. Andrew, Steidten potentially leaving and Moyes signing a potential new contract is just a kick in the nuts. Montana. Still, look at Roma. They ditched Jose. Imagine if we are having this hard of a time making a decision on Moyes. What would Sully do if we had Mourinho? Moyes has to go. Would you take Mourinho? Would you take Mourinho as our manager? He'll bring success, but he is, part of the bus boss, isn't he? CM, Phillips needs a couple of games behind closed doors. Yeah, good shout. Or play for the under-21s. Play for the under-21s. Trini, you can tell, because they will allow one senior player to play. Trini, you can tell there's no faith in the youth. Even when we have no first-team player available, he will shoehorn another favourite in instead of giving a youth player a chance. I just don't know, in all honesty, if our youth are really good enough. And I know what you're going to say. If you don't try them, you'll never know. Amistad. I'm on the fence with Moyes, but I hate it if the club renewed his contract before the end of the season. Right. Let me stop there because I'm going to go into the last part of the show, and that is about Moyes and what's happening with his contract and so on and so forth. So we've heard a lot. I think I did a show again. I've lost track of days. I think I did a show on Friday night, and then I added a bit to it, and then I edited it together to talk about Moyes when I read a story that West Ham United were talking about renewing Moyes' contract. And I guess the question is, and we've been on it for quite a while now, is does David Moyes deserve a new contract for what he's given West Ham United so far? Let's not just think about what it is currently, but on the whole, the 4 years that he's been with us, is he worthy of a new contract? When it comes out with no plans or not knowing what to do for the left side of attack, not going into the transfer window and getting players that we knew we needed, etc. You've got to question, there's a pattern there. With Tim Steidten coming in, we thought that pattern was going to change, and yet what we've done is yet again another transfer window where we've done our business right at the end, or in this case, no business at all, apart from Calvin Phillips. Now, I guess when I compared our transfer window to the one 2 years ago, we've progressed because we did at least bring Calvin Phillips in this time, whereas 2 years ago, we didn't bring anyone in. However, 2 years ago, we didn't let 4 players go from the club. We kept what we had. So when you start seeing things like that happen, when you do start seeing the way that we're performing. You know, as someone said, no wins in the last 6, but then you could argue only 1 defeat in the last 11, etc. You know, our style of football, is our style of football the only reason why you want to get rid of David Moyes? Or is it more than that? You know, things like can't make decisions in the transfer window, things like not being able to find solutions either before a game starts or during game time to make put in players on, substitute them on to actually affect the game, etc. You know, are those the reasons why a lot of you don't think Moyes deserves a contract? Because I'm torn now, to be quite honest with you. As I said a few weeks ago, when people thought I was advocating Moyes in, which I wasn't, I was saying, whilst the manager is in place, I will support I will support the team. I will support the manager. I don't always agree with everything he does and says, but when he goes, I'll support the next manager that comes in. But you know, what are the reasons why fans don't want him? Is it a combination of everything? Is it because of the turgid football? Because when you look at our league position, you can't argue. All right, we've dropped to 7th, but that's bloody healthy. When you look at Europe, you can't argue. We're in the last 16. That may change at the end of March. We may not be in Europe at the end of March. But that's why I don't think, to be quite honest with you, that the board, even though there's been a lot of noise, and David Moyes has said that we're back on it now that the January transfer window is shut, you know, we're back on negotiating a contract. I don't think that contract's going to be negotiated fully until we know where we are around about mid to the end of March. Mid to the end of March, we'll have a much clearer idea on where we are in the league, you know, because we've got, you know, they're all tough games, but, you know, we've got to try and maintain some wins or get some wins in order to stay in the top half of the league, get back into 6th place, etc. And we'd have played our 2 legs in Europa to whoever we're going to face. Now, I don't think the board is going to make a decision before then. I'd be surprised if they do. But let's say, for argument's sake, we get through this patch and we start winning again, and we go back into the 6th position, and we go into the last 8 of Europe. What then? You know, is that the time to start talking about a Moyes contract? I think that will be a better time than now, and that's why I don't think I do believe that talks are ongoing. I don't believe that they will be concluded anytime soon. I think talks will get to the next stage after mid-March, after we've played our European games and knowing where we then are in the league. Because if we slip out of Europe in the middle of March, and if we then slip further down the league, you know, and we might be maybe 10th or something like that by mid-March, I would think then that the board will have second thoughts on whether they're going to give Moyes a new contract or not. I do believe negotiations are happening. I don't believe they'll be concluded anytime soon. And I think that's going to be the point. Mid-March is going to be what we're looking out for. The day after we play our second leg in the last 16 of the Europa League, start listening to the noises then as to what may happen with David Moyes and his contract. Now, that's not me getting any information from Sean or anything like that. This is what I think is logical. You know, yes, I think they are talking. Yes, I think there's probably a desire, certainly from David Moyes' side, that he wants to stay as West Ham United manager. Yes, I believe that the board in general, they'll be looking at the last 4 years. They won't knee-jerk. They won't look at what's happened in the last few weeks, the last month or so, or the kind of performances that we put in. That's not how you do your business. You don't just look at you don't just pick the last few weeks or just a season or even last season. You look at everything as a whole. And that's what the board will be doing. Whether you agree with that or not is a completely different matter. But what the board will do is they'll look at the whole setup over the last 4 years, and they will ask themselves, are we better off now than we were 4 years ago? I think, you know, the answer is going to be a resounding yes. It's going to be 3 years in Europe. And I know people don't want to hear it, but the reality is 3 years in Europe. You know, we've been finishing 6th and 7th in the league. You know, we've got a chance of finishing high in the league this season. That's what the board will make their decision on. They won't be making their decision on the way we're playing our football. Is that a disservice to the fans? Yeah, you could argue that it is, that the board don't care. But then, when fans are saying we're not going to renew our season ticket if Moyes stays, then as someone said in the chat earlier on, the board will go, got someone to take your place, mate. If you don't want to stay, you don't want to stay. And that's harsh, but that is a reality. So I think the board will look at the whole 4 years and ask themselves, what has David Moyes given us as a club? The stability, etc. Is that worth giving him a new contract for? They won't be looking at the relegation dogfight last season, even though that would have been a good reason to get rid of him. And they won't be looking at people bemoaning the fact that we're not playing attractive football. They'll be looking at results. And I know that sounds really harsh, but that's what they'll be looking at. But I think negotiations are ongoing, but I don't think they'll be concluded until mid-March, until after Europe, because then that will give us a better idea of where we are in the Premier League, and it will also give us a better idea. Well, it gives an actual conclusion whether we're going to be in Europe or not. If we get into the last 8 and we're still hanging on around the top 7, top 6 place, David Moyes will get a new contract. If we slip down to 10th, 11th, whatever, and we're out of Europe, I'll put a big question mark on whether the board will give David Moyes a new contract. And then it comes, of course, to Tim Steidten, because how is this going to affect Steidten's potential at staying at West Ham United? I asked the question again. Any truth in Tim Steidten going to Liverpool? Is there any element of truth in it? And I was told, absolute nonsense. It's just stuff that's being trolled out there by the press, by the media, to cause a bit of unrest. Don't believe it. I don't know, to be honest with you. Liverpool are going to have to go through quite a major change. Said this last week with Jurgen Klopp going and what's his name, Schmadtke, who is the current director of football, leaving. I think he's leaving anytime soon. With those two individuals leaving, Liverpool are going to look to build their backroom staff. Tim Steidten is hot property at the moment. So I don't believe not to believe that this could happen. I think it's very, very likely. Now, of course, someone said it. I think Daniela said it earlier on. Liverpool do not have the same policy approach as Tim Steidten has. Get them in young, cheap, build them up, good players, sell them on for a big profit. That's not Liverpool's approach. Liverpool's approach is you buy them at a decent money. They're going to come in and do a decent job. That's why they played, the 30, 40, 50 million pounds for some of the players that they have. But then Steidten has proved he can do that as well. Steidten has proved that he can actually go out there and get you a 30, 35 million pound player to be able to deliver straight away. Kudus and Alvarez. So I think there's an element of this could happen. And do I think it will be because of David Moyes staying? You've got to look, when you've seen some of the things that have happened in the transfer window and you start going, why have we not done our business early enough? Why have we not identified our targets, etc.? There's got to be an element of Moyesism in that. That's what he's done over and over again. We hear, we're going to do our business early. We're going to get out of the way. And then come the end of the transfer window, it's like we're scrabbling. Fuck me. We haven't got a player. Let's go and find someone quick. Get that player and get this player. And that is not a Steidten way to do things. And didn't Moyes joke about it? Didn't he say, Tim's learning the way that we work here. It's not like the German organised way. We do things at the last minute. No, David Moyes, you do things at the last minute. Other people normally do things with good timing. So I think possibly Steidten could go. Will he go? I think it's quite possible that look, I did say in the summer transfer window, I've got to go back and repeat what I said then. In the summer transfer window, when we did our business, when we got the players in, don't you remember? I said it. We patting ourselves on the back. What a great transfer window it was, etc., etc. Look how much influence Steidten has had, bringing players in and all that sort of stuff. It took us a while to get going in the summer transfer window as well, if you recall. It didn't all happen straight away. Even some of the transfers we did were sort of, taking forever. And I don't know if Steidten would like that. It will all depend on whether Liverpool can offer him real autonomy or not. Because if he's just going to pick up the same as what we've currently got at West Ham, he may as well not move. But if he feels that he's going to get the autonomy that he wants to have at Liverpool, then why would he not want to go there? So I think it's 50-50, to be honest with you. I can't say hand on heart whether he's going to stay or go. If he goes, how bad is it going to be for us? If he goes, I think it's not going to be great. I think we will then, if he goes, we will end up with Moyes again, and we will end up with the way Moyes does things, and Moyes will have been almost vindicated. Sometimes you've got to wonder if Moyes does things in order to piss Steidten off, in order for him to leave. So Moyes can turn around and go to the board. You've only got me. You might as well keep me. Is that the sort of game that Moyes will play? I don't know. I don't know. But if Steidten leaves, I think it won't be tragic, but it will be sad for him to go. Let's not forget, we did get some decent players in before Steidten arrived, the likes of Paqueta and other players, etc. Bowen and so on. They were all pre-Steidten. But Steidten has brought that element of sparkle, hasn't he, to the transfer window by getting players in like Alvarez and Kudus, etc. Two top-notch footballers who have come to West Ham United. So I think we will miss that. But watch this space. I can't tell you. I really don't know. The stories are out there that Liverpool are trying to lure him. Liverpool are trying to get him. Whether I believe that or you believe that or not, I can't say. But I think Steidten will... Before Steidten came to West Ham United, he said, I want to go somewhere where I've got a long-term project to do. He will see West Ham United as that long-term project. He will want to prove his worth by being able to bring a club like West Ham up there and stay up there, with some of the best teams around. And there will be an element of pride to do that. It might be a little bit all too easy for him to go to Liverpool, for him to go there and sort of like just be given millions and do what he wants. Maybe this is the challenge that he wants. Sometimes people take jobs on for very different reasons. Sometimes people take jobs on not just to have an easy life, but to actually really get their feet, in there under the table, really get stuck in, etc. And maybe Steidten is seeing West Ham United as that sort of project. I'd like to think he'll stay. If Moyes stays, will he stay? I think they've proven that they can work together, certainly in the summer transfer window, but I've got big question marks over what's happened in the January transfer window. Do I believe that Steidten offered David Moyes 8 players that Moyes turned down? No, I don't. But do I believe that they've got a working relationship and they can continue to have one? Yes, I do. So it's going to be how desperate Liverpool are going to be and how much money they might throw at Steidten in order for him to go there. And all I can say is watch this space and see what happens. But I believe at this moment in time, Liverpool have an interest, but that's not yet been reciprocated by Tim Steidten. I'm going to shut up and read your comments. Brian, I still firmly believe this squad does not play for the manager. I believe that's one of the reasons we come to out of halftime flat. Moyes is talking to them at halftime and brings them further down. Do you know... there's been a couple of interviews, and I know what you're going to say. Well, of course, players will say the right things and won't say the bad things. But Jared Bowen and Emerson have both come out recently and talked about David Moyes and talked about him with a glowing reference. Bowen talked about what he's brought to the club in the last 4 years, certainly since he's been here, and how the club have progressed. And you will say, yeah, well, of course they'll say that. They're not going to say anything bad about the manager. But sometimes you don't have to say that much. You don't have to put it, go on full praise like Bowen did. And also, was it Alvarez? Sorry, not Emerson. Alvarez did. I do think they play. I think they play for pride. And I do think they play for the manager. Do they always believe in what the manager tells them to do? Maybe not. Maybe not. Let me scroll down. How far behind am I? I've got a long way to go. So, English Yardie. The one thing I don't like what Moyes does is he alienates himself from the players. He doesn't like as a manager coach. He must be approachable. Well, he doesn't do that all in all. He doesn't alienate those who he likes. Brian again. I also believe teams have figured out that if you play us with our own style, you can have your way with us. That is very true, which means that low block has got a place in football, but not against us. Trini. People should not be made to feel guilty if they don't renew. They go to football, travel, etc. And for the shit that Moyes back. Yeah, absolutely agree. Peter, there is not 20,000 on the waiting list for a season ticket. I got mine after 6 months of going as a Claret member. Well, do you remember they came out and said there were something like 50,000 on the waiting list, and that was poo-pooed pretty easily. Dan, I don't think it's got anything to do with support, but if people pay good money to go and watch a game, they want to be entertained, and 9 times out of 10, they're not these days. Trudge, just becoming painful to watch, and all hope and ambition is killed. Feels like we're not pushing on to me. Michael, I got up yesterday at 7:45 in the morning in Chicago for the game. The way we performed yesterday, I should have stayed in. I don't know. I don't think we played badly, to be honest with you. The results certainly didn't go for us. Rani, it's hard to watch for sure. Never sat and watched games with my arms folded. It's happening more and more now. Let's scroll down and try and catch up on your comments. Adam, hello, mate. I hope you're well. Always good to watch it. Thank you very much, mate. Moyes just getting on my tits at the moment. Just hope we don't fall apart. We won't. Well, I say we won't. Darren, hello, mates. My old man reckons Antonio is £15 as to trainers. Put another couple of zeros after the 15. David, if the club doesn't show fans a matter, why should fans put up with the club deliberately throwing games and awful Moyes ball? Andrew, not a fan of Moyes, the style of football in that soulless stadium, but my love for the club will always remain through thick and thin. Charles, 3 points out of the last 12. Not good. I agree. Out of the last 12. Yeah, we've drawn a few, haven't we? Hammerit, would the board actually let Moyes stay on for even longer? It's obvious most fans can't stand it. This is the big question that no one seems to really know. Montana, Stell, you do know that Mark Hughes manages in League Two these days. Moyes should follow him. Shaky, if the board wanted Moyes gone, they pay $3 million and get shot. For whatever reason, they want him here. Yeah. They might think he's doing a good job, despite what we think. Trini, it's laughable seeing comments on Phillips. It's like where people forget where he's on loan from. The negative, deep way we play must be a total culture shock for him. Funky T, I get the Moyes frustration, people moaning all season. Then how happy are they at the end of the season when we have won a cup and another year of Europe? Not how you start, it's how you finish. Good point. Good point. Vinay, Moyes, you can't win anything with new players. Paraphrasing Hansen, you can't win anything with kids, which is why then he shouldn't have played Phillips right from the start. Should have given him a bit of time. Andrew, I'm probably in the minority, but Ward-Prowse is a very ordinary player in my view. I'm not saying he's crap, but just don't see what he does if it isn't being effective from set pieces. He's fallen away. He has fallen away. I don't dispute. Jonathan, Moyes' comments are wired. I don't think he does not know that. He's either gaslighting or playing dumb, and then goes out on the pitch with an unbalanced team. I agree with that. Hammers Mikey. Let's not talk about Moyes' cupping crap yesterday to deflect from his poor management, clutching at straws. Nil. I hope I'm wrong, as I was with Lingard, but I've never seen Phillips as that good a player. I think Pep has given up on him. I think it's an interesting one. I think he will have a job to do. I think when he gets up and running, I think we might see a different side to him. It's interesting. A Leeds fan commented on my review yesterday, and he said that it was only through the Bielsa that Phillips really sort of got to grips with what was expected of him, and it was down to Bielsa in managing him. So maybe Moyes has got a bit of managing to do if he wants to get the best out of him, or coaching to do to get the best out of him. NWO, the clown wasted Lanzini as well. I can't forgive him for that. Bring back Lanzini. I think it was time for Lanzini to go. David. Pep made a mistake on Phillips. It's well documented. He and his staff were surprised. His lack of awareness and quick thinking. That's why he never broke into the team. Kind of goes with the comment that the Leeds fan made about what Bielsa did with Phillips. So maybe true. Montana. Moyes speaks as if he's not the manager making decisions for the team. It baffles me sometimes. I think it baffles him sometimes too. Rani, truth is so many people will believe anything they hear if it's what they want to fit their narrative. Others play on that and stick all kinds of bullshit out there, and it gets lapped up. Very true. Trini, Antonio looks fashionable. Some people may not be aware of that. It's not my fashion, mate. But, I'm sure it is fashionable. I've got a 22-year-old daughter, and she goes out and she's, they all dressed like that. You know, when I see photos of where she's at with all these people, I'm like, oh, is that style? I'm just old. I'm just old. That's not style to me. But anyway, James, I blame Steidten for this Fornals and Benny unreplaced fiasco, but I don't want to upset his arse stickers. I don't know if I blame him, to be honest with you. I'm not so sure. NWO. I like Antonio. You never know what you're getting. It's fun. You do know what you're getting. Moyes turned his nose up at Fofana. I don't know if we were even in for him, but was insistent on signing an expensive injury-prone midfielder who's rarely played. No wonder Tim will be off to Liverpool. Mikey, some brainwashed fans were probably happy as well when Moyes was bad-mouthing us all, talking down to the fans and trying to treat us like mugs. The mind boggles with some of our support. When did he... I'm not having a go. I'm actually asking a genuine question when he did that, because I'm not sure I've seen that, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Damn. Phillips was just the wrong midfielder to get. We needed a ball-carrying player rather than another central defensive midfielder. How we didn't get one left winger is a complete failure too. I totally agree. Shaky. You don't bring on a player who is not match fit when we're chasing a game. Clown move by Moyes. Yeah, good point. Good point. 6 times 9, Danny. Good evening to you. Versus Bournemouth, corner came on 93rd minute after the entire game was zero left. We had zero left hand side all game. What a prat is at times infuriating. Mark, Montana Prime. The problem is people take rumours as gospel. We were linked to 70 players in January. We have no idea who we're after. Take them all with a pinch of salt. Exactly that. Exactly that. Do not believe that, and I know some people go, he's our number one target. It absolutely is. If a player's our number one target, they'll be got within the first couple of days of the transfer window. If you go a week and your number one target isn't through the door, he was never your number one target in the first place. Vinay. Moyes good at player pricing deflation. Get him into the supermarkets and reduce prices with a stare. Let's see who else we got. Good evening to you, Ian. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Vinay, Moyes, good. I've done that one. English Yardie. Give me a second, people. English Yardie. Steidten and Moyes can't coexist together. One has to go. Moyes has wasted money and devalued so many players. To give him another go as manager coach, no thank you. Worst manager in the Premier League. I wouldn't say he's the worst manager in the Premier League. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are in the league. But I get your point about the players and their transfer values. Stuart, the result was poor on Sunday, but I thought the performance was greatly improved compared to the last few weeks. Hammers forever. Exactly that, Stuart. I agree. I came away frustrated. I came out of that stadium really frustrated, but at the same time, I was thinking to myself, we didn't play badly. And I know when you walk out and you've just been beat 3-0 and saying we didn't play badly sounds a bit weird, but we didn't play badly. Hammer it. Can only hope that someone is in the pipeline that Steidten trusts to take over the first team. That's if you think that we're going to get a new manager. Let's see what happens. It's hilarious how some fans who do nothing but slag off Moyes take a bit of their own medicine, like Ina Sharples in the Rovers' return. Old man, the lack of signings and the offload of players is to intentionally tell Moyes, you're not here next season. Why spend money that a new manager would use? It's a fair point, and it could be a good point. Montana. Moyes is the biggest problem. Now, since he won the trophy, he feels like Pep. Mate, chill down. You're still the most losingest manager in Premier League. Yeah, there was a stat that came out, wasn't there? That he's lost the most games out of all managers in the Premier League. He's been there the longest, which is probably another reason why. I'd like to see that stat as a percentage. And see if he's still, rather than it being, he's lost. What was it, 700 games or whatever? I want to see that as a percentage, for all managers. Would he still be the as a percentage, the manager that's lost most games? I don't know. Ian, Stel, I used to go everywhere with West Ham. Cannot do it anymore. If Moyes gets another contract, I'm done. John Elliott. Johnson been great the last few games. His worst position seems to be right back. Yeah, I said that last week, mate. The irony is, by trade he's meant to be a right back, but when you play him in the middle of the park, he seems great. When you play him out on the as a left back, he seems decent. I think at one point he was playing further forward, wasn't he? At the beginning of the game against Man United, and he looked all right, and then you put him in as right back and you go, oh, what's going on there? Ian, fantastic image of the 3 young Man United talents. Shame we do not have the same attitude. Oh, there's that when they scored the goal. They were copying Kudus's celebration, weren't they? Jack, I thought both Osman and Hotta were underwhelming possible rumoured transfers. Very underwhelming, to be honest with you. But there you go. Let's scroll down. Do forgive me, people. I am trying to get as many comments in as I can, but you can hear from my voice, I'm beginning to wilt, and I've almost done 2 hours of talking. Shaky. Why anyone else? Would anyone else take on Heitinger? I think he's taken the shackles off, to be honest, and made us the team we're capable of having. I wouldn't mind, if he's there as the next person to take over. Why not give him a chance? Yeah, never know what you'll get. Andrew. I can't believe we couldn't find a player who would play on the left, but instead we utilised Ben Johnson to play there. Instead, this club will never change. Ings was another gift to the man. He didn't buy him. He was a gift to the manager. Rani, excuse me. I should never drink sparkling water, should I? Gas. Because all I'm going to do is start burping, ain't I? That's not a good thing. Rani, how about the board deliberately sabotage this window so that we fail the second half of the season so they can get rid of Moyes? Or has that conspiracy theory been done already? No, it hasn't. That's a new one on me, mate. Let's scroll down. 1K, good evening to you. I would be sad to give up my season ticket, but will if Moyes does not get us back into Europe and still is kept on. That's why I'm saying wait. Because I don't think a decision is going to be made just yet. They may be talking, but I don't think a decision will be made just yet. Jack, it's our poor passing that's very irritating. Agree, but that's not DM's fault. Why should he teach professional players on mega salaries how to suck it? I don't disagree. That's a really good point. Because our passing has been abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. We can't seem to find our own players, or we pass it into areas where there's no players, or we pass it to players who are, got players around them, etc. Opposition players around them. I agree, Jack. I agree. Our passing has been pretty poor this season. Rally, good evening to you. How we expected to win without a striker? Only so many defensive central midfielders a team can have. Andrew. Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, Calvin Phillips, all aging injury-prone players, and all will be playing for Moyes if he got his way. Darren, bring in the Luton Town manager. I like him. He seems to be, all gung-ho, but I don't know. GP. Man City can pull strings and yank knobs. They won't go down. Oh, is this if they get done? Of course they won't go down. Matt B. Anyone see Antonio on Sky Sports Football tonight? I thought he had deflated football on his... I didn't see that, but apparently he said he's quite close to coming back, didn't he? Hang on. Have you seen this? Hang on. I've got he had a... What did he have on his head? He had a deflated football. Where is he? I've got to put it up. I've got to. Hang on a minute. It's here somewhere. Damn it. Just when you want to get the image up, can't find it anywhere. Because this is what Antonio... Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're talking about? Is that the deflated football you're talking about? Or was it a different hat to that? I shouldn't take the piss. Who said it? Was it Trini that said it? That's fashion. Look, I don't know what fashion is, to be honest with you. Hammer's dad. I like Redknapp the best, but even he had his critics. I love to have someone like him now, a character. Yeah. Trodge. If we play hoofball, fair enough, but don't want Ings up front, and why not sign a big striker? Mikey. Moyes thinks he's the next Ferguson. Ferguson Mark II thinks he's the next best Scottish manager since him. Winning is what I do. Well, the geezer speaks a crock. Jack, we came 6th and 7th without Paqueta, who arrived in August 22. Very true. Yeah, very true. Ian, when are the protests starting? I don't think they are. GP. If fans protest, will be the laughing stock of Talk Sport. Most fans outside think we're lucky. Yeah, I don't think they'll be. What? Because we're playing not attractive football. Montana, Barney, if Luton get relegated, it will come. He will come if we offer him the position. Still, you remember before the season began, I was calling for Gary O'Neill. Well, he has Wolves clicking. You absolutely. Yeah, I take that back, mate. You were absolutely right on him. Epic. I take Mourinho. He's washed up, but at least we will get some entertainment. Will we, though? He's Mr. Park the Bus, isn't he? David, why hasn't any clubs come in for Moyes? He's at the end of his contract. Obviously, too good for us. So say the pundits. Jose, would he bring success? Would much prefer a different style, not a dose of toxicity. I think he'll bring success, all right. But if you think Moyes' football is boring, well, oh man. Do you think Sullivan believes Moyes keeps us in the league and the odd cup run in Europe to lessen the money he needs to spend and realise we're punching above our... Look, Moyes is on good money and it won't cost anything to let him go now. They won't let him go halfway through the season, but he's on decent money. It's not as if he's on we can get another manager in for the same sort of money. There you go. Dan, Mourinho plays a worse brand of anti-football than Moyes. We should be looking at the likes of Arne Slot. We need someone to take us forward. Good shout. Bill, there was an interesting appraisal of managers appointed under GSB. There wasn't one who was on the up. Each had issues and basically down on their knees within the game. Avram Grant. Damn it. Who else? Allardyce. Was Bilic on his knees? Maybe Bilic wasn't, but yeah, good point. Good point. Montana, still, all these people saying we're top 7, 6, 8, etc. What would they say if we finish 9th with no trophy? We finished 9th with no trophy, which is why I'm saying wait until mid-March and see whether there's an agreement to keep Moyes on longer or not. Trini, I'm going to be honest, Moyes has been blessed with the fact that we've had good players who get on with each other. But the irony is, Trini, he's the one that's brought these good players in. He brought Bowen in. He brought Paquetá in. Right? He's been helped with bringing Kudus and he brought Emerson in. He has brought some decent players in. We've got to give him some credit. But yes, they seem to get on really well. Dan, I think if he gets top 7th and 4th consecutive year of Europe, he will no doubt get a new contract, whether people like it or not. If he doesn't, though, he simply has to be replaced, in my opinion, which is why I said earlier in the show, wait until mid-March to see whether he's going to be offered a new contract or not. Jack Flash, everyone goes on about Emery and O'Neill, but let's see them get into Europe 3 years running and win a trophy too. Many so-called progressive managers have had few good seasons and then fell dramatically. That's a really good point. If they're that good, they would do what Moyes has done. It's a really, really good point. If Emery is that good, and I'm not disputing that he isn't, but he's going to have to do it again. He's going to have to do it. I know they're playing European football now, but as many say, they're playing in the shitty European league, and they should be winning that hands down. Let's see if they win the Europa Conference. And then he's going to have to do it again and again. It's a really good point. GP. No board in the world would sack Moyes or let him leave. With a cup, Europe, and 7th, you're all bonkers. See, that's the other side of the coin. Football with Brown, and good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Loving the content late. Well done. Thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. Ralph, I take Eddie Howe, but Arne Slot better. I take Eddie Howe now. I finally am impressed with him. I know they're not doing brilliantly with Newcastle, but he's proven that he can try and do something with a half decent team. So yes, I would. Jonathan, I want Moyes to go. Poor ambassador for the club. Snippy responses. Gaslighting. Does not play youth. Bad football. Not in game management. Loses money players. Bad manager, and so on and so on. Ryan Karim, good evening to you. For me, it's a combination. He doesn't play young players. Tactically, he's clueless, and he does not play to win. Like I said, let's see what happens with Callum Marshall. If he stays next season, Moyes, let's see what happens with Callum Marshall next season, because he's out on loan at the moment. And if he's out on loan to a championship team, I would expect him to actually be in the first team squad next season. Toha, I'm not sure who would come to West Ham, especially if there's no European football next season. And Paqueta, kudos, move on. Most players are not interested in long-term projects. Good point. That could be something that would make them want to move, possibly. Neil, combination of things, but when he came back, he quoted the Red Bull model, buying young, hungry players. 4 years on, I don't think he could take us any further. And do you remember, for those of you who do, I did a show a couple of years back now where I talked about just that, Moyes and the Red Bull model and how that's what he wanted to do, etc. That was one show where I was red-faced, absolutely slaughtered for even potentially suggesting that David Moyes wanted to do the Red Bull model. What I meant was, way back then it's David Moyes that talked about it. It wasn't me going, I think David Moyes is going to put in a Red Bull model at West Ham, which he has proven that he hasn't. But he was talking about that how impressed he was at the Red Bull model in the at clubs in Europe, and that's what he wanted to go to. Nowhere near that. We're nowhere near that now. I think our average squad age is older than what it was when he started off. I think we were around about average age of 26, 27. Our average age of the squad now is something like 27, 28 years of age. Bill, Sullivan can talk to Moyes, but that doesn't mean we have to sign until the end of the season. Exactly that. Hammer it. Hate to be pessimistic, but I don't think we're going to get back into 6 this season. Can only see a decline now. Hammer it. You're mixing with the wrong people. David, Darren, there's more, but I'm crap with the keyboard. To Darren, I don't know what more that is, but oh man. Sullivan dangling carrot of new contract, so he works hard to get back into Europe. Then hopefully you get rid. Could be that. You never know. Mark, I had us down as 12th this year. Best start to the Premier League ever. Has given us a cushion. 10th, no cup. Moyes gone in the summer. Rebuild under a new manager. Looks likely. Trini, Moyes should only be reconsidered if he has a brain transplant. He is made of stone and cannot change. David, throwing a cup game for a league game just meant we're out of another cup. Stupid as stupid does. I didn't like it. But then we went and beat teams around, beat Man United and Arsenal, and I went, all right then. But, what about now, though? Usual. The only poll I want to see here is the one we're still dancing topless around it. You're a strange one, as usual. You're never going to see that. But if that's what you dream about, mate, you've got bigger problems than you think. The board, old man, should realise we have opportunities to push on from 6th and 7th with a good base of players to add. Do you know, I'm going to be really honest, and I know you're going to hate me saying this, but I don't think we're going to do much better than 6, no matter what manager we have. There you go. I said it. That I really don't think we're going to do much better. We might have on the odd occasion, maybe sort of like, 5th, maybe 4th, but we're never going to do it. And it's not because I don't want us to or don't believe. I just don't. West Ham with all the competition that's in the Premier League at the moment, a lot of other clubs are pushing for to go to break that top 4, get into the top 6 regularly, etc. I think if we continue to be in the top 6, no matter what manager we're under, I think we're doing exceptionally well. Will we get the odd occasion where we might go that step higher? I think that's a big ask, to be honest. Christopher, good evening to you. The board won't get rid of Moyes. He will defo get a new contract, as we ain't going down under him, and that's all they care about. They're not bothered about the style of football, etc. Yeah, talked about that earlier, mate. Andrew, the board is the biggest problem. They're happy to finish top half, Premier League, security. That's all boxes ticked for a new contract. Yeah, and that might be what they're basing it on, to be honest with you. Bill, results based on expenditure. 500 million is too expensive for bad results. Steidten is all about profits from players, young and old. I know who I'd back. Yeah, good point. Dan, Steidten signed on to a project, and unless he really feels like others aren't in line with it, I can't see him leaving so soon into it. Yeah, that's my thoughts, to be honest with you. Maybe Liverpool are sniffing around, but you're right. Steidten signed on to a project, and yeah, I think he'll be backed by Sullivan. Sullivan likes him, and if Sullivan continues to give him his backing, I don't think he's going anywhere. Dan, Steidten going nowhere. Lots of made up nonsense. Trini, the only thing is Steiden's philosophy does not fit Liverpool's current philosophy. Yeah, we talked about that. Bill, Moritz Steidten and Maximilian Hahn have just joined us. Yes, good points. Another reason why he's not likely to believe in Moritz Steiden's his brother. Maximilian Hahn has also been brought in as the, he does all that analysis, doesn't he? Uses figures, stats. Who would believe stats, eh? I mean, come on. Vinay, Moyes doesn't like new people, and that extends to new players. He can only deal with a small squad of 14. Moyes has human phobia. Well, he's got 19 players, but that means he's gonna sideline 5 of them. Fuck me. Can you imagine that? Daniela, I do believe Steidten rumours are press mischief as at the moment. It does go back to if it goes back to Europe. I didn't get that last bit. So do forgive me, Daniela. Mikey, excuse me. If it wasn't for Steidten, we wouldn't have had Alvarez or Kudus. He'd done the final deal. We would have ended up with Maguire and McTominay and some other crap player. Let that sink in. No Kudus or Alvarez. Dan, Liverpool don't really need someone to find gems either. Liverpool's reputation and transfer pool speaks for itself. Really good point. Rani, how far am I? Oh my God. I thought I was close. Bloody hell. At least Hahn looks like a data analyst that might know what he's doing. Can't find anything on Moritz qualifications. Let's scroll down. I really thought I was close. I'm not, am I? I've done 2 hours. How do I manage to do 2 hours? GP, if season tickets don't drop, why would the board be concerned if Moyes plays caveman football? Exactly. Bill, Steidten found us for his project, not Sullivan finding Tim. Sullivan is only interested in the profit angle. Well, he owns, yeah, maybe. Steidten will save him money, that's for sure. Michael, the last transfer window showed that Steidten doesn't have the autonomy that the fans would like him to have. If he finds that he can't implement the long-term project that he wants, then I will worry. Good point. But as other people have said earlier on, it seems that potentially, with Sullivan's backing, Steidten will get the kind of backing that he needs. Early doors, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good to see you too. Trini, when players do talk openly on their social media platforms, they get dragged over the coals instead of listening to what they are saying. Good point. 1K. What role would Moyes have, coach or manager with a new contract? Good point as well. I know before they were talking about it would be a coaching role and have nothing to do with transfers and stuff like that. I'm not so sure about that, to be honest with you. If they give him a new contract, it will probably be very much on what he's on at the moment, the sort of setup that he's on at the moment. I hope you didn't hear me gurgling there. That would be embarrassing. Daniela, sorry, Stel. I think these Steidten rumours could be the anti-Moyes brigade shit stirring. It depends on the Liverpool next manager. Good point, Daniela. Good point. James, hurry up, Stel. It's 5 minutes before the spaghetti needs draining. It hit me with the secret Italiano magic. English yard is Stel. I saw your buddy Sean talk TV podcast show. It was like watching an episode of Twilight. He did send me a link and I did watch it. And it looked like they were all static. Yeah. Apparently it's a very apparently a lot of people watch it. Moyes, good evening to you. Moyes. Oh, I mean, I said about being static, and then my Wi-Fi went down. I know what you're all going to say. Oh my God, he's frozen and all that. So I hope you can still see me. The Premier League added more time to the games to make sure punters see more of the ball in play. Then you get Moyes not playing football for 75 minutes of it, only playing 15 minutes. That's not value for a ticket. Hammerette, why doesn't Moyes promote the youth? That is one of the most frustrating aspects for me. If they're good enough, they'll play, is my theory. Simple one, really. There's more chance of me growing taller than seeing academy players get decent 9 minutes. You know the answer to this, Hammerette. You're just playing devil's advocate. You know the answer. You know I've talked about this many a time. If they are decent enough and they can make an impact in the Premier League, Moyes will use them. Why would he not? Which is why Callum Marshall has gone on loan to West Brom. He'll get 6 months there if he gets decent game time and he comes back to West Ham. And then if he doesn't play, I would then agree with you that Moyes doesn't give youth a chance. Andrew, Arsenal on Sunday is going to be a tough watch. Cannot see us beating them for a third time. Stranger things have happened, mate. I can. Yardy. Steidten can't exist with Moyes. I'd rather have Steidten stay. Moyes leaves. I'm loving what he did with Bayer Leverkusen. Let Timmy cook. How far am I? I've got to catch up. Do forgive me. I try and pick as many more as I can. I think the problem is he wouldn't sacrifice Souček, so was unable to push Phillips into a more advanced role. He's going to have to bite the bullet sooner or later. Kevin, the fan base is ridiculous and we'll never see a Premier League title for the next 100 years. Look how you treat your all-time Premier League top goal scorer. Pathetic. No, hang on. No one's disputing what a great effort Antonio's done for the club. Absolutely top-notch, without a shadow of a doubt. But as I said earlier in the show, when we're still relying on a 33-year-old makeshift striker to come and save the day for us up front, there's a problem. We've got to admit that when you see other clubs who have got really prolific young strikers, hitting the back of the net regularly, Ollie Watkins, etc., I feel a bit envious. And I like Antonio, and I think he's done a great job for us. But it's not about the way we treat him, but we just need an alternative. Funky T. This isn't a Moyes question, but how many fans would give up their ticket if we got relegated without Moyes as manager? Oh, good point. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? True culture. Good evening to you. Question is it possible to think that West Ham coach can be blamed for the team performance based on the injury list? It's down to the manager to come up with a system to manage that situation, to be honest with you. So Moyes knew we had injuries. Moyes knew players were going to leave for AFCON, etc. Moyes probably knew that we're going to lose players in the transfer window. So it's what are you doing on the pitch to accommodate that? You should be looking for alternatives. So I think when you get injuries, every club suffers injuries. It's what you're doing as a contingency to manage those injuries, to be honest. And that gets me. When Moyes comes out with statements like, I don't know what to do on the left side of attack, it's like, go and buy a left-sided player or go and use Cornet more often or put Emerson as a wing-back. Kevin, I hope you get a new manager and get relegated. You're not a West Ham fan then, are you? Dan, goal versus Bournemouth is Zuma's fault, not Phillips. Yeah. I think Zuma put him in a difficult position. Manuel Phillips held onto the ball too long because he waited for someone to make a run and they're all standing still. Okay, yeah, that's fair. David, Funky, when we were relegated, we all renewed, but I wouldn't have it if Moyes was there. Interesting that. Let's scroll down. Let's try and get to the end of this show. There was a question there. Jonathan, are you not getting tired of all these Moyes conversations? Sure am. For this reason, he needs to go alone. Well, weirdly, I don't know if that's a good enough reason because we're having these Moyes conversations. We have a difference of opinion. Some people are happy to have him. Other people are not. Steve, 450 million spent in a couple of seasons and without just one of those signings, we look utter shite. How is that not the coach's responsibility? Yeah, like I said, he's got to manage what he can. Still, when we have injuries, etc. Still, what game do you watch? Do you think Fergie would play Souček for this long? Come on, man. No. I'm not saying that at all. And that's why I was quite at pains to point out that I wasn't trying to refer Moyes as another Fergie. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, I don't think Souček is playing well at the moment. I agree with that. Lynn, I'm fed up with Moyes' archaic football. Just my opinion. Good night to you, Matt. Thank you for watching and thanks for commenting, mate. Much appreciated. How far am I? I'm nearly there before I collapse. Scott, good evening, mate. I just feel like last night was the start of our tumble down the table. 5 teams are on one win away from overtaking us. Good point. Stel, Hammerette, do you have insider knowledge telling us to wait till March? Usual. It's dystopian football under Moyes. People of dystopian football. God. People are becoming numb to it. Time to go. It really is. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got here? Lee. We need a couple of Craig Dawsons at the back and make it solid again. Getting stuck in. Great signing. We do need a kind of Craig Dawson, to be honest with you. I agree with that. Epic. Moyes never wanted the Red Bull model. The board wanted that. It's Moyes that talked about it. Moyes talked about how when he was out of football, he was looking at the different footballing styles and how he admired the Red Bull model. I don't know. I don't think the board would know what Red Bull model was. I think they'd think you'd be offering them a drink. English Yardy. If Moyes stays, it's going to be the same dithering saga around transfers, transfers, summer or in January. Moyes' time at West Ham will end this summer. Let's see if we can get one or two more in. Still, a few decent transfers. We will be looking at fourth with some world-class players, but without the transfers, no. It's keeping those players and then adding to them, Scott, which has become our difficulty, our problem, to be honest with you. Ben H. If either Steidten or Moyes, Sullivan, it's either Steidten or Moyes. Sullivan needs to make a call. One thing's for sure, they won't be working together again next season. I don't know. E. Lucius, cat feathers. That was right at the start of the show. Bill. Bilic was sacked by Besiktas just before joining West Ham. Sacked by Lokomotiv before that, but left Croatia team right now. I stand corrected. Thank you for that. Yardi. Still, I disagree with you with Timmy Steidten in charge. I think we could finish top 6 consistently. Bayer Leverkusen is his project. That team is playing amazingly. Let Timmy cook. I don't disagree with that. But we could do that with both Moyes and Steidten. I'm not advocating for Moyes to stay, but we could do that with both. Funky T, I agree. When you look at the top 5 and their resources, you have to be realistic and realize we can't compete. Top 6 is outstanding, hence why outsiders wonder why fans are not happy. Good point. Makari, David. That was a story in its own right, wasn't it? Interesting, that. Interesting character, to say the least. I'm sure you know. I know, sorry. I don't know what happened there. It blipped temporarily. So I do apologize for that. Andrew. The mods are stressing me. Andrew, if we continue to play Neanderthal under Moyes, not only will Steidten be gone, so will Paqueta, Kudus, Alvarez, and Bowen. James, I'm only here to put the pressure on Stel by lengthening the list. And to slag off our undercover spud traveller and Rempo's imposters as usual. Trini, you mentioned it as a problem to have Antonio as a striker. Last time I checked, Antonio does not pick himself. Moyes is the problem. Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's Moyes that picks the team. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Mark, GP, I don't watch them after they deliberately put out a false transfer rumor to see who picks up on it. Can't believe anything now, but I'm lucky that's not a site I would want to see. I don't know what channel you're talking about, but that's an interesting story. Rani, it's been in the national press, Daniela, Football Focus, etc. They can't stop talking about Liverpool. Of course they can't. They all want to talk about Liverpool and Man U. Did you the game after the game is how great Man United were. Man United were fucking shit, and yet it's how great they were and how they all over us. No, they bloody weren't. Anyway, it's always about the big teams, isn't it? Mark, he left Leverkusen because he wanted more control. Not sure he would have come to us if he wasn't guaranteed that. That makes me think Moyes and Steidten are working together. That's a really good point. Yeah, a really good point. James, interesting how after that's bang on, to be honest with you. That's exactly why he left. He left because he had disagreements with the director of football. I think it was the sporting director or something like that. He had disagreements at that time, and that's why he walked away. Really good point. James, interesting how after a very good performance at Old Trafford, most people are whining about the style of football. Obviously, my pet goldfish knows more. Well, no, people, see, this is it. You couldn't moan about the style of football, but you could moan about the result. Absolutely. Trini, Arsenal over celebrations were big news this weekend too. Yeah. They won't be celebrating at weekend. I'm done. That's it. I'm done. Thank you all. Much appreciated. 2 hours, 23 minutes. I'm just parched. I need to be drinking this water for the rest of the night. Thank you all for watching. Really much appreciated. There'll be other shows coming up, when decent stories are coming up to tell you about. I am going to be looking. I've been speaking to Ghanaian Hammers about coming on to talk about Ibrahim Osman and Kudus as well. So I will be trying to. They've asked to meet me at 2:00 tomorrow, but I'll be working, so I'm going to have to find another time. But do look out for that, because I want to get to the bottom of the whole Ibrahim Osman thing and see what they might know about it. But talking about football, Ghanaian, and why they're Ghanaian hammers. So look out for that show. Look out for any other shows that come up that might be, like I said, any news that worthy of mentioning. Really appreciated. You really have kept me on my toes tonight. Thank you so much. Almost 2.5 hours worth. So have a great week. Have a great week. And we'll see you all very soon.